Good evening, Draftaholics, and welcome to Draft Punks. My name is Sam. I'm joined not by Adrian. He's been defenestrated. But we have back one more time, by popular demand, the 4-in-a-row Pro Tour top 8er and 2023 Player of the Year. Please welcome back Simon Nielsen. Simon, how we doing?
Woo! I'm just giving myself a round of applause here. Thank you, Sam, for having me back. You texted me like a week before the Pro Tour saying that we just like schedule a meeting and that will mean that I'll end up in draft spot 1 on day 2, and it worked. It worked like a charm.
It was a bit of a running joke for a while that the moment we started scheduling these videos to do together, you were just making the feature pod on day 2 and then top 8ing the event. It's now more than a joke. It's just happening every time now. It
just works. Yeah. The strategy is like, just like unstoppable at this point. Like it just works. And so for anyone else who would like to do well at the first Pro Tour, we just gotta get Sam's calendar fully booked. If we get more than 8, I think the system will break. But yeah, that's all there is to it. I think you can charge pretty good money for these, actually.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad we're keeping someone afloat with this, because it's certainly not us. But look, we're thrilled to have you back. If you haven't joined us for one of these before, here's what we're going to do. We are going to break down 2 feature drafts from the Pro Tour, sort of. We're going to look at Jean-Emmanuel Depraz featured draft from day 1 of the Pro Tour. And we are once again just lucky enough to have had Simon himself sitting next to the featured drafter on day 2, which means we've been able to reconstruct Simon's entire draft. So we are actually going to hear from the man himself about all of his picks and team strategies and all of that sort of thing. So it's going to be great. The thing that's a little bit different about how we do things here is there is no holds barred on depth. We will go as detailed as we possibly can. And there is no one better to do that than Simon. So I'm keen to just talk for 7 hours about draft. Are you in?
I'm in.
Let's go. Let's check it out. So when we next get to see you, we will be on Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, pack 1, pick 1. So while we take a look at this first pack, do you want to talk a little bit about your kind of big picture view on the format? Because it seemed to catch the commentary team at the Pro Tour a little bit by surprise.
Yeah. So what we discovered on our team doing like a bunch of 8-man drafts on Magic Online, with not just team members, but also with like other people, is that white is so contested that you're oftentimes better off just like not being white. And this is especially because, like, even though white is super deep at common, the uncommons, which also dictate a lot of the power level of your decks, are actually like not that good in white outside of the unicorn and the case of the Getaway Express.
And so I guess we've got a nice illustration of that sort of philosophy at play here, where we've got the really powerful repulsive mutation, which is just great in the kind of green X decks, versus makeshift binding. Would you have made the same pick as JED here?
I think honestly I would have taken the gadget technician out of this pack. It just leaves you a bit more flexible. Yeah, because it goes in like any red or blue deck, and obviously great in actual blue-red. And also if you're like a splashy deck where you can oftentimes cast the front side as well, like it's just nice. So you don't even need to be blue-red for that card to be good. Whereas the repulsive mutation, that card is also splashable, but it's asks a little bit more of you. Like if you end up in blue-white detectives, you're a little bit harder pressed to splash that card. Whereas you can just put a gadget technician in your deck. And also if you do end up like red-white, for instance, like all these like aggro decks and stuff where the technician would just fit. So for that reason, I think I would sacrifice a little bit of power level to just gain the flexibility. And yeah, I do think like if you really favor the green multicolor decks especially, then I could see repulsive mutation being great, because anytime you're green splashing and you're often going to be a blue-green base, the rotation is just going to be like one of your better cards. But
yeah, that was my thinking as I was looking at that. Is you've described me. I really like the base green multicolor decks, and it looked like a few of the other a few of the other players that we saw on camera did as well. But yeah, you're saying lean a little bit away from white, but otherwise stay open and flexible. Look for those hybrid
exactly.
disguise commons. Yeah,
those are definitely powerful. At least like Gadget Technician and Dog Walkers. But we have Gadget Technician as like the best of the hybrids, so like that's also why it's like pretty high up.
Yeah. Yeah, with the blue white Granite Witness behind those two.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Great. I want to dive deeper into that philosophy on white, but let's see where.
Yeah, let's continue.
We go with the
but
next
yeah,
pick.
I don't fault him for passing makeshift binding here. I think that's fine.
Yeah. All right. So for pick 2.
Yeah, so we have the Flourishing Bumpkin, which goes incredibly well with mutation, but also in Evidence Examiner, which is lines up extremely well with the mutation. And we got the Reckless Detective here as well, which is like also like a super strong uncommon. I think it's about the power level of the other one, so you should probably just like go with whatever fits your first pick.
Yeah, and that's and that kind of fits into an interesting discussion I've been having with some of my draft friends recently, is how much you should weigh that first pick when you're looking at a pack like that, where you've got 2 powerful uncommons. I've heard some people say you just take the most powerful card in your first couple of picks. And I've heard some people, and I lean more towards this camp, where you should try to match up your picks at least a little bit if possible. Sounds like you're more towards that camp.
No, I actually don't mind taking like the most powerful card regardless of color, but every card that you pick is going to put a little bit of a weight on other cards of the same color in the next picks. So and it also, the amount of weight you put on the cards depends on like how strong the cards you've already picked are. So Repulsive Mutation is pretty good, but it's like no like Izoni or anything like that, where that would pull heavily into those cards. So it does put a little bit of weight on the Evidence Examiner, weight on the Flourishing Bloomkin, and the Reckless Detective does not have the same weight to it. So now the Bloomkin and the Examiner gets like buffed up a little bit. So if you had like Reckless Detective as like a 7.9 and Flourishing Bloomkin is a 7.8, well maybe Bloomkin ends up being like a little bit more. I'm not even sure that JD actually considered the Bloomkin here. To me, I think it might be better than the Examiner because of the upside of drafting that card early. And if you end up in a green splashy deck that isn't base blue-green, Evidence Examiner gets a little bit worse. You can still splash it, but it's worse. Sure, it also doesn't have the 2-drop mode. And the Flourishing Bloomkin, like if you're a mono green deck that splashes Repulsive Mutation, like that's kind of perfect. The perfect type of card to splash in that sort of deck. So, but obviously it's like not the easiest thing to be mono green. It's just very powerful if you do get mono green. If you pick up a second Bloomkin at any point, like that's a whole strategy there. So you can lean towards that. I think picking Evidence Examiner is totally fine. It's a bit less risky in some ways, but it also, you do run the risk that now you're taking 2 blue-green cards, and if blue-green is not open or the packs aren't lining up for blue-green, you end up having to trash your 2 first picks rather than if you'd picked, let's say, like Gadget Technician into Gadget Technician. You would always be able to play your first picks.
Sure, yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question, which is, and I've kind of gone back and forth on how I think about this, is we often think of staying open is, if you kind of stay in one lane, that gives you lots of options later. But in a case like this, what you were saying is true. If you start with the mutation into the Evidence Examiner and blue-green specifically is not open, then you might actually be less open than if you had just taken this Reckless Detective second.
Yes, but I think that's a function of, like, there's a difference between taking a black card into a black card into a black card. That would be staying open to your second color, versus taking blue-green into blue-green, and now you're not at all open. Except you kind of is, like, because stuff like Teamer or Sultai or Bands are still totally fine color combinations. Like blue-green are often like great bases for splashing, and so I mean I don't think it's like that bad here to take the Evidence Examiner, and he knows that like it doesn't lock him into like a 2-color blue-green deck, and there could even be splashed cards in a different green deck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's continue with this. That's largely how I've been thinking about this format. Is once I'm in green, I almost don't even mind what I'm pairing with it because I know I can splash reasonably generously. I probably take it a little bit too far, but I think the point is still true.
All right. So next pack here we have the rare double Market Watch Phantom pack.
There we go. That's a winner. And there's not a whole lot else for the blue
a bad
green.
pack. Like for what he has right now, like the Vengeful Creeper or the Crocodile, or maybe the Sam Collector are like the best cards. But it's kind of awkward to take those this early.
Yeah.
So he's gonna.
Unfortunately, he takes the non-foil, which is strictly worse. Yeah.
Oh, the non-foil one.
Yeah.
Actually, can you pause? No, so I have a little thing here. So
go.
The venue in Chicago was kind of humid. So when you were drafting a foil and you went to build your deck, it was already marked. It was just curled. So
oh wow.
Yeah. So you would have to call a judge to get them to make you a proxy written on the front of a basic land that you're not playing in your deck, just like with a Market Watch Phantom. So that you could put all your curly foils next to your deck, and whenever you would then play your island that says Market Watch Phantom on it, you could then switch it out for the one in your sideboard, and it was kind of a hassle. So I think he made the objectively correct pick here to just not have to worry about that at all and not pick the foil card.
That's totally fair. In addition to not needing to worry about it, I hate having proxies in my deck because I'm not able to scan it properly when I'm just glancing at my hand. So I don't know.
Absolutely. I got the lucky feature match advantage on day 2 where they actually just got me a correctly stamped projector inspector instead of the foil one I had. So they just gave me a non-foil one with the right stamp. So I can just play it on camera instead of having to worry about proxies. Cool. So anyway, I think taking the Phantom here is fine. It definitely means that JD is not he's not against trying to switch, but I think what we found is that even though you can get these tempting white picks early, this is just not a sign that white is open at all. It's a little bit too early, and these packs can just easily happen. It's maybe someone took a unicorn out of this packet. You don't know. And also you passed the O-ring, the binding, the makeshift binding, and now you're also passing a Market Watch Phantom. So someone is going to pick up now as a signal. So it's also not even sure that your pack 2 is going to be that great. So that kind of puts you in this squeeze where if you are going to be white, you have to put your foot down pretty early on it, and you can't just it's pretty hard to switch into white as an open color. So I think, honestly, I would have just picked one of the morphs here, probably the Creeper, since it's the least replaceable.
Interesting.
And just, go with the card you have. And at least, you're going to be green. So, I mean, it's with the card you've already picked if you're going to play them. So, I think maybe that's better. But it's obviously, you do give up kind of a lot of power level, but it might be fine to not risk that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This is again a discussion I've had with my team. The extent to which you should be attentive to the signals that you're sending, because personally, I pay almost zero attention to it because you have so little control over what the people next to you are doing. We passed 2 good white cards, but it's entirely possible that the person to our left first picked a great blue card and then just honed in on the next blue card in the pack, and so the white is actually getting further down than you thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they may shift out, just all of those sorts of things. I find it's such a hazy kind of metric to base any decisions on. And if JED jumps into white here, there's a chance he just completely cuts it off for the rest of this pack, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, and cuts someone else out of it. Yeah, but you could also imagine someone who first picks a Novice Inspector and then picks the Binding and then picks the Market Watch Phantom and think I've cut white. And I don't care that I pick up a few other medium white cards and then some good red cards or whatever it is. That could easily happen too. So, it's just I think normally I don't put that much stock into what I pass as well. It's just to highlight the issue with jumping into white in this format, where you
Sure.
can
Okay.
like unless you like just vacuumed all the white cards from pack one, you could very easily end up in a spot where it's kind of close on both sides.
Yeah, so I guess it's a function of the fact that there are so many good white cards at common means it's more likely that the people around you have first picked the Novice Inspector or their own makeshift binding or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. All right, let's continue on. All right, pick number 4. Now, I remember the commentary team and a few others were surprised at JD pulling this cease and desist to the front. Can you talk about what your team thought about this card?
It's kind of like a sideboard card almost, but you can main deck it. Just because it cycles anyway. I mean, it's an enabler for your collect evidence, but so is Topiary Panther, which is another like card in this pack. And I think I would have just picked the Panther. Like, it just opens up splashing so easily. It's like a nice big board to play on turn 6. The like upside of cease and desist is obviously higher because like if you play against someone who has 2 makeshift bindings and you just blow up both of them, like that's massive. Or if you play against the blue-red, like Geodric deck. So it's a fairly strong card. I just think I would have preferred to just get the also if you just pick fixing higher and pick the Panther here, it just like enables you so much better in case you open like let's say a big dragon in pack 2. Like you can just splash whatever you want. And like oftentimes a lot of other people at the table are also going to be prioritizing fixing because of like a similar reason. So the fixing cards just go super high up in priority. And you kind of just need to pick them over a lot of things. Like, in my first draft here, I second picked Exit Specialist over Gravestone Strider, and I think that was wrong.
Wow.
Which is wild, right? I think my deck would have had 2 more rares in it. No, 3 more rares in it if I had picked the Strider. Which is just it's kind of a crazy. But there's so many like multicolor rares that not everyone can play. That if you're the only person who ends up with a bunch of fixing at the table, you're just gonna get rares. And then your deck just gets better because the rares are really good.
And that's exactly it. And that's broadly been my philosophy as well. So I was expecting JD to snap up the Topiary Panther here.
Mm-hmm.
For exactly the reason you said. I love just getting the fixing as priority number 1 because it just enables you to play any of the good cards that come your way. That being said, I love cease and desist. I'm totally happy with gain 2 life, draw a card at instant speed for 2 mana while messing with their collect evidence.
No, yeah,
I think I like that card
totally
more
fine.
than most, but
totally fine for sure. I think another card to consider here, like if you really want, like this is the thing, right, with your like white speculation. That is an auspicious arrival that you're not picking here. So you're not doing a very good job of like taking out all the good white cards out of the packs. So the white person on your left is just gonna take the auspicious arrival and be like, oh my god, white is open. And so you just wasted a pick on the Market Watch Phantom.
Yeah, and the other card that JD pulled to the front there was the Extractor Confession. Is that really in the conversation here at all with the Panther and the cease and desist?
I think so. It's just awkward with the cards you already have, like having taken blue green, rather than staying a bit more open. But I do think it's like one of the better black cards. So I definitely don't mind having. But also another like thing about black is that it's pretty underdrafted, and so you often get a bunch of these removal spells for free. So I don't know. I think if it was a Slice from Shadows, it might have been the pick here. But Extract is like kind of like a tier worse.
Wow! You have Slice above Extract.
Yeah, I think Slice it's incredible. So the fact that it can like first of all kill morphs at not a mana disadvantage, and in general just like so it's like kind of a fine removal spell early game, and then it's also something that can kill a bomb late game. So it's like super flexible in that regard, and I think that just bumps it up a lot.
Wow, that's really interesting to me. Really interesting because I started on that order at the start of the format and then have switched pretty firmly to the other way around. So okay, that's really interesting to hear. But yeah, so there's a nice theme in the kind of narrative you're giving us so far, which is flexibility. Just take these cards early that leave you more options early. The Gadget Tech in pick 1, the Panther in this pack here.
Yeah. So, anyways, now here, pick 5. We have, I think, to me, this is a fairly clear hedge maze.
Yeah.
Like these lands are. It's even like on color, which is another like bonus. But even just like having a land that surveils a card to your graveyard that you can then collect evidence for, it's like so nice. It's like these lands are incredible in the format. Yeah. There's also another card in this pack that I think past me would have been like, oh my god, Culvert Ambusher. Because I thought this card was like one of the better green uncommons, and I've come to realize that it's much closer to the to the like vacuum cleaner in the artifact that is a vanilla 5-mana 4/5 with disguise.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because it actually doesn't eat something that often. The ambusher, like things really have to line up well for that to happen. So,
yeah. Anyone that watched the recent video we put up on DraftPunks of my my high stakes limited run would have seen me discover the hard way that Culvert Ambusher does indeed say target on it, which is a little bit awkward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like that's like a huge downside. That it is. If you could eat disguised creatures, it would be so much better, but you just can't.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a huge fan of the surveil lands in this format. The ones that are green are like a clear tier above the rest for me because they can be fetched by Gardener and Bloomkin, and the green deck's going to be multicolor anyway.
It doesn't need to be green. It's actually better to be non-green for the Gardener because then it fixes 2 colors at once, assuming you are like a 5-color deck.
True. Yes. Yeah.
But the Bloomkin doesn't matter.
Needs to get forest. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. That's a good point. And that sounds like a minor synergy for the format because the lands are rare, but you get 4 to 5 of them in a pod. It's like actually a significant thing to consider with those cards, or at least in my experience.
The lands are also like almost uncommon, like kind of in terms of what we're used to, because they kind of like get their own slots in the rarity and they come up a lot. It's like, like there will be multiple of these opened at any table, like because there's like 10 of these, right? And they're like kind of interchangeable. So it's like fairly similar to just a regular uncommon, and they just like play a huge part in the format, and I love them. They're great.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, and JD getting one here 5th, I think is huge. I reckon that's almost a steal. I've certainly picked them higher than that.
Yep, I agree. So yeah, that's definitely like an easy pick, a happy pick, and one we maybe shouldn't have spent so much time talking about.
No, it's hey, look, we're here to. Do you want to talk about that Jaded Analyst a bit as well? I'm happy to go into that.
Yeah, oh my god, I love Jaded Analyst. He's like a 3/2.
All right, pick 6. What have we got going on here? We've got the Crawl Whipcracker pulled straight to the front, along with a couple white cards, and the Rubble Belt Maverick, which I'm curious to get your thoughts on to settle a debate between myself and a friend.
I think Rubble Belt Maverick has kind of a role to play, but it's in a fairly like specific deck. I don't. This is a pretty tough pick, I think, mostly because the options don't seem that good to me. So I don't think if you're playing the like multicolor green deck, I think Rubble Belt Maverick is just not a card that fits. If you're playing like black green, it can be a pretty important card because you just want your curve to be super low, and it enables your other like collect evidence stuff, and then can also itself enable your the like Rut Farm 3/4 guy.
Or the chalk outline stuff.
Yeah, maybe that too. We're not super high on that part, but if you like that, then like the Maverick also goes in those decks. I know the biggest dream is to like get a what's it called, a victimize. The like reanimation spell. You have to sacrifice a creature, so you go like Maverick, surveil a bomb into the graveyard, and then you like cycle your Panther, and then you go off on turn 3. That's like a big dream. So his extra Crawl Whipcracker here, I think JD values this guy just higher than we have done on the team. It looks like a 2-for-1. It can be a 2-for-1 in a lot of games. So it's like a fairly strong card. I don't think it's splashable though. I think the consistency at which it is a 2-for-1 is low enough. Because a lot of times, like, you can like kill a clue with it, but if you're splashing it, it might be that they actually end up having the mana to crack the clue in response to like you killing it, so it doesn't actually like get your 2-for-1 there. And there's like few enough detective tokens in the format that doesn't come up super often.
Yeah.
And so the thing that makes this card powerful is if it's also a 2-drop enough of the time.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so since you've picked like 2 of these blue cards, maybe end up being a Sultai deck with more of a base black tint, or maybe you use like evenly black and blue. That can definitely happen. So like you have the Whipcracker or the Examiner as 2-drops, depending on like which land you draw with them. But of course, that also leads to mismatch things. So I think it's probably a fine pick out of this pack. I just wanted to mention it like also for later that like it's kind of awkward. It's like the best card in the pack is for sure Auspicious Arrival, which I don't know. I think maybe you could consider taking here.
Oh wow, interesting.
Because you have the Market Watch Phantom, maybe you're doing like a green, white, splash blue thing like that. You kind of have the cards for that right now. So
yeah, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I wouldn't take an Auspicious Arrival at pick 6 as a signal. I feel like there's white cards in a pack that would be taken over Arrival, or do you think that's quite signally
I don't think it's
at this
a signal.
point?
I just think it's a good white card.
Okay.
And this is the level of white card you get pick 6, because everything else will have been sucked out of the pack.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty good card. And it's also one of the white cards that doesn't demand that you're an aggro deck. Because even if you're like mid-range or like even a more like even control leaning deck, like it's still 2 for 1. Like 2 for 1's are good.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, great. And then going back to what you were saying earlier about cards kind of lending weight to certain picks or certain directions, the fact that we've got that Evidence Examiner is a little bit more weight in favor of the Rubble Belt Maverick, right?
Yes, but I don't know. I think I prefer to just not have Maverick in my deck. I think Maverick is mostly just like a green-black card.
Yeah, great. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna win that argument with that friend then. All right, let's move on.
I do love the Maverick though. He's nice, but yeah, kind of needs it to be something very specific.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. Moving on to pick 7.
All right. So this pack here, all of Team Handshake are fist pumping by getting the deuce. 8th pick. What are the table doing? This is the best blue common. Let's get it. Yes. So yeah, I think that's a fairly easy to do. I also will point out the Cornered Crook is awesome with Evidence Examiner.
Oh, that's cool. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Like Teamer works really well because the like because of like how all the like blue-red sacrifice artifact stuff work well with the Evidence Examiner. So it's kind of like a nice little synergy package.
That's very cool. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I'm gonna look out for that in future. Talk to me about Deduce. Sounds like you're a bit higher on that than the broader community.
Yeah. So what we found is that like we like especially instant speed removal a lot. That's also why we have Slice above Extract Confession. We also like kind of like Murder a lot. Or like any of the red removals. So there's like a lot of like stuff. But having instant speed interaction is crazy good in the disguise format, where you can like block the disguise creature and force them to do something, and then you can blow them out with like even just a bounce spell or anything. The issue is that there's so many things in this format that create card advantage one way or another, that having just 1-for-1 removal is not a game plan in itself, unless you support that with card advantage. And the Deuce is one of the better card advantage spells, because it plays especially well with this plan of trying to leave up mana so you can blow out their disguise creature. In case they do something different, you can just draw 2 cards. And it's super flexible in that as well, because of course you can like break up those 2 cards in different installments. You could draw a card and sacrifice your clue to your Cornered Crook or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Deduce is really high ranked. I think Cold Case Cracker is a better card than Deduce in that I picked that higher because everyone else would do that as well. So you just don't need to pick Deduce as highly. But I think any blue deck, I'm happy to play 2 to 3 Deduces.
Yeah, great. That was going to be my next question. Yeah, how many do you want in a deck? Because sometimes I get to a deck and I'm looking for some cards. And I'm like, yeah, do I really need 3 Deduces?
Yeah, you do.
Good.
So yeah, I think like it's like not that hard to like make the format slow down, and then you really need those types of cards.
Great. Yeah, cool. I really love that that kind of big picture idea of everything is about the morphs, and so I really want to interact at instant speed to make my opponent's disguise creatures more awkward. I really like that view. All right, not a whole lot here. Perimeter Enforcer seems to be pretty late here, though.
That is a very late Perimeter Enforcer. But honestly, like, I think JD could have had a fine white deck if he had picked up the white cards, but he didn't, and so he doesn't get to now, I don't think. Maybe if you pick the Auspicious Arrival over the Cruel Wigcracker, you can take it here. But I think at this point you just have to realize you're just not going to be an Enforcer deck. And the white card I think that's going to be better for whatever you're doing here is the Crowd Control Warden, which I think is a pretty good card.
We'll definitely talk about that once we get to your draft, because you picked up a few of them.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. It's like, it gets a lot better if you can cast it on the front side. But being a splashy deck, that's not always that hard. But of course, he isn't even leaning that much into splashy direction, because he only has one piece of fixing right now. But yeah, I definitely don't think he can be I wonder if he's thinking that the detective line is still open here, which I just don't really see it being. I mean, if he had taken the Auspicious Arrival, maybe we could talk over the Crawl Wigcracker, but yeah.
I mean, there were two Auspicious Arrivals, right? So the
other one was
one in the Cease and Desist pack.
Yeah, probably yes.
So yeah, we could have two Auspicious Arrivals instead of Cease and Desist and Crawl Whipcracker into the Perimeter Enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance
at that point,
where
it's probably fine? But yeah, that's the issue with like going half measured at white. It's like you just have to be like all in and just hope that it's there. And I think it has been there actually this draft. Like, I think this is a seed where you could have drafted white. It's like kind of risky because like you don't really know when that is. But I think at this point it's no longer a white seed because you only picked up a few white cards this pack. Pack 2, you're just not going to get very much white, likely.
Sure.
And so it's like in pack 3 maybe you get more white, but maybe white actually wasn't open. There was just a bunch of good white cards in the packs because that always happens. That happens pretty often. So like you could easily get into a spot where like the only pack where you could get white cards was pack 1. And you missed up on that chance. So,
yeah, is there any merit to being banned? It's a little bit awkward, right? Because a lot of the white cards are fairly aggressive leaning. That the Evidence Examiner and Repulsive Mutation lean themselves to a slower strategy.
No, absolutely, you can be banned. The Repulsive Mutation also doesn't lean yourself to a slower strategy. It's very good if you're craving out.
Sure, yeah.
So the Examiner is just like a nice card advantage. It's like a Deduce, but also 2/2.
Yeah. But then trying to lean aggressive with the 3-color thing gets a little awkward. Or do you think that's fine with the fixing in this set?
It's not that you're leaning aggressive. It's just that like you have a curve you can play to the board. The strategy in banned would still be like leaning into some of the like it would just be leaning into a lot of the like disguise synergies. Especially if you can get like the green-white 1/3. And you play stuff like the Crowd Control Warden. You're just like trying to flood the board. Then you use like your blue cards to have like a bit of interaction with the mutation and like a bit of card advantage with the Deuce and Evidence Examiner. And so you're basically just a green-white creature deck that has a little bit of support from blue. And I think that's fine. You're not trying to be aggressive, you're just trying to like overwhelm the opponent.
Yeah, okay. That makes total sense.
But anyway, in that deck I would still pick the Crowd Control Warden over the Enforcer. So
oh right. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
So that's why I'm saying like in the spot you're here, I would definitely pick the Warden. And then in case you end up Soulside, it's a playable card. Alright, so
now
this is
go talk to me about this. We've got the case of the Shattered Pack Wheels. Oh, sorry, very, very late. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I might take the Creeper here. I think Creeper is very good for these green decks. But you also do need fixing, and so because you passed up on the Panther, maybe you do need to take the case here. It's just so it should be noted when you take the case here, you are ignoring most of the text on this card. You are not picking it because it can flip. I've never witnessed ever a case of the Shattered Pack being solved, and that's okay.
Simon, you need to spend more time with me.
I feel like I'm already at my limit with you, Sam. We see each other like 3 times a year, and that has to be enough.
Simon, I'm going to give you the over/under on 5. How many drafts did it take me to use Niv Mizzet to solve Case of the Shattered Pact?
Oh, like it took 3 drafts or something.
Oh yeah, it was my third draft.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
See, that's why I don't need as many at one time. I know you already. Like, it's kind of hard. So, yeah, the case is mostly just like a bad Trophy Panther.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
And that's what it is. But that's fine, because bad Trophy Panther is still fixing. But the fact that it's like so low quality fixing, and the Vengeful Creeper is a card you actually want in all your green decks. Because just having that option, like the access to enchantment removal or artifact removal, is like just pretty strong. And it's fine to play a 5/5 on turn 5. It's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's just a big dude. Yeah.
And it gets
in my mind,
and it gets pumped by your Insidious Roots.
Oh,
I guess
that's hot. Let's go. Yeah, in my mind, I like the case, but I think it's the weakest fixing in the set, except maybe for they went this way. Yeah. So like
yeah,
Gardener,
it's about
Gardener,
the level up.
Panther.
Went this way.
Yeah, Gardener, Panther, the Thoroughfare land, the Evolving Wilds land. These are the premium ones in my mind.
The Strider is the best one. Because you don't need to be green to play a 5-card deck.
Okay, sure. Sure.
Okay. That statement is like an oxymoron, but you don't need to be green to play a 4-card deck at least.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and yeah, I think this is one of the first sets where I have done non-green 5-color.
Yeah, no, we really like it.
All right, let's have a look at
the next pick here. Oh, you get the second Deduce. Yeah, so
second Deduce.
I think I would still pick that here over the Creeper, even though you didn't pick it earlier. But yeah, that's fine. And then we maybe get another Creeper here. No, we don't. Okay, pick.
Is Creeper something that you're happy to have multiples of, or is it just kind of something you want, just kind of top end of the curve kind of thing?
I don't mind having two, but the first one is way better than the second.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, so as we round out this pack, let me kind of quiz you a bit on this philosophy on white, because I remember on one of the, I think it was on the Lord of the Rings video we did, I asked you about your approach to a format where there is a clear consensus on a best color or colors. And in the case of Lord of the Rings, that was black and red. And I remember asking you at the time, is there any merit to that idea of avoiding those colors because everyone else is going to be fighting over them and you can draft the green decks in Lord of the Rings? And remember at the time you thought for a moment, you said, avoid the best colors. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. But it sounds like you've got a slightly different take on this format.
I also think part of that is that white, we don't think white is like the best color necessarily. I think it's like, it's overdrafted and overrated.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So when we get to like the point where we're avoiding it entirely, that also has to come from the fact that it's like, we also think even when we're white, it's just weaker than like doing other things. Like for instance, playing these like multicolor decks with a bunch of bombs. So, or playing these like green decks. So we like, and we think that like blue and black are better than people think. And they're also more open. So we have this like, it's just like, there's a pretty big difference between like what we think is good and what people think is good. I think for Lord of the Rings, the public perception of the colors lined up pretty well with our perception of the colors. And so at that point, it's no longer worth it to avoid a color.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So when you consider it overplayed and overrated, that's a really nice little capture of that idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's obviously like, a color can also be overrated, but not be like overdrafted to the extent that white is, where it's also fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think a lot of it honestly just has to do with the fact that like people don't really like realize that there's just not that many good white uncommons, and those are the driving forces behind a lot of things. So this just means that like, it looks deeper than it is.
There's a bit of a rant that I've gone on a lot on this channel, so sorry to our regular viewers. About one of my issues with the kind of Magic content creator community is the easy soundbite about a draft format is which color is good, which color is bad, and it's always heavily exaggerated. Like in LCI, people love to go on about how black was just terrible and you couldn't touch it. And it was just, you never draft black. And that format had, by the stats at least, had the closest win rates between all of the archetypes. So I tend to find that all of those explanations about a format based on how strong one thing is and how weak one thing is are usually exaggerated. And I find if you kind of relax that a little bit, you get to the right spot. Do you agree with me on that? Please agree with me, otherwise I'm wrong on a lot of videos.
I agree.
Oh, that hurt him to say.
Yeah, it really did. It did me in. No, I think you definitely have a point there. I think there have been formats where the disparity between the colors have been like so much that there is merit to avoiding a color. Here, like we don't. If white wasn't overdrafted, we would also think white is fine. It's not that white is a bad color at all by any means.
Yeah.
And also, as I said, this could have been a seed for white, like this draft seed, but he had to give into it from the beginning. But like I don't know. Like when I think about a set that has like an undraftable color, it's like green in Battle for Zendikar. And even then, you could probably still draft green a little bit because of self-correcting things. Like it's just, And nowadays, I think people are just looking for that. This is the best. Always draft this. This is the worst. Never touch it. Like, it just
that's it. And
doesn't really work like that. I think like if you think like that, it's probably a good idea to try and draft the color that you think is undraftable and see what can it do, and accept that you're gonna lose a lot doing it. But then you learn more. And so it depends a little bit on what your goal is. But if your goal is just to like, go infinite in your arena draft, you can just keep drafting your stupid white-red decks and do well with them. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally do a lot of that. So yeah, if you want to see people trying different things and losing a lot, subscribe to the Draft Bunks, because we do that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you could watch me preparing for a Pro Tour, the same thing happens.
So Simon preparing for Pro Tour equals Draft Bunks. Love it. Let's have a look at the start of Pack 2. So immediately pulling that V2 Inspector to the top. We love that one. Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah. There is an Incinerator of the Guilty. Well, good thing that he picked up all the fixing he could, except for the Panther.
Yep. But this is exactly what you were talking about, right? You pick the fixing as aggressively as possible because there's so many cards like this in your next pack.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue is, like, he's not super well set up for this dragon here. Like, the issue is that he doesn't even have that many green cards right now. He passed a lot of green. There's a good chance that his neighbor is green. And in order to support this Incinerator here with the cards he has, he kind of needs to have a green base. So I think Jean-Emmanuel's draft at this point is a bit of a mess. I think picking the Incinerator here could potentially salvage it. I think it's worth the upside, but I also don't think you have to be married to having to play the Incinerator here.
Yeah, no, I believe that. Is it the kind of card you can splash in this format? Can it be one of one or two red cards? Is the fixing in this format?
Do you want to splash a Vein River? You can splash a Vein River. That's a treat.
Hey, look, we did it a few videos ago. Don't ask that question.
It's okay. So, I mean, it does require, especially like the type of fixing that isn't just Topiary Panther, case of the thingy. The Shattered Pact. Like, you need cards like the Plaza,
the Public Thoroughfare.
The Public Thoroughfare, yeah, exactly. Or the Strider. Like, you need things that they fix multiple cards at the same time. But
that's a really good point.
If you do have those, drafting multi-pip things is like fine, and splashing them.
Totally fine. Great. Yeah, I love that. Cool. All right, on to pick two. Lost in the Maze, Cold Case Cracker. Where was your team out on Lost in the Maze? Is that just kind of
that's kind of crap?
Fine, not even that good. Yep.
Yeah. The issue is that compared to, it's like not even that much better than Out Cold because it can't tap down disguised creatures.
That's been what I found as well, yeah.
So I think here you have one of the best uncommons in a color that you just opened a card of with the dragon.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, right? Is it the the exit specialist to match with those blue-green cards we picked up early, or the premium Torch the Witness to go with the dragon you just picked.
I think another thing that he really needs to make the dragon work is that he needs to remove more spells. He needs to slow the game down. So the exit specialist, I don't even know if it kind of works with what he has, because she doesn't have that many blue-green cards either. The good thing about the exit specialist is that it is a morph, so it helps with his mana base. That's like a pretty big secret of the format, is that like the morphs they are just mana fixing as well. In a way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it doesn't matter which land you drew, you can play your 3-drop on 3. But I do think the Torch the Witness is like so good and exactly what he needs. And if he's looking to splash the dragon, I think he has to take the Torch here.
Yeah, great. No, I love that. Yeah, and thinking about how that fits into the game plan with a card like Dragon, as you're looking to slow the game down. That's really important to pay attention to. Yeah, I like that a lot. And we like Exit Specialist over Cold Case Cracker if the Torch wasn't here.
Yeah, for sure. Exit Specialist is like one of the top uncommons. It's not like ridiculous to take the Exit Specialist here. It's not like that much worse than Torch on power level, I don't think.
Yeah. I thought this was one of the closest picks in JED's draft. And you can tell he's suffering with it as well. He's not sure what the take is here.
Yeah, that's fair. But he ends up with the specialist, going with the blue cards. And I think at this point, I think he's also wondering, like, the reason you would take the specialist here is that, like, you're aware that it's no guarantee that you're gonna splash the dragon.
Yeah, and that's totally fair at this point.
But there's also a chance he could just be like more of a straight teamer deck and not even be a splash, but be like part of his game plan. Anyways, pack 2, pick 3 here.
So we've got the Crime Stopper Spray, which is okay. The Public Thoroughfare, which seems like exactly what he wants at this point. I think that is
exactly what he needs, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no real power card you're giving up. I mean, I do like the Hustle and Bustle in certain decks. I'm not sure his deck is... It's not really a combo with the Deuce, though, so I don't think it goes in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's not really that many other options then. Like, you got some, medium blue cards. You got the Pompous Gadabout, which is also like in a different like realm than what he's doing. So he can forget about it. Yeah, that's always what I think when I see the Gadabout. I just
love it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Hustle and Bustle and some of the other split cards. Because one of the things I'm slowly coming around to is that when we first evaluated them, we were often just looking at the cheap side as the main effect and the expensive side as like a nice bonus. But I almost think it's the opposite with a lot of them. Like Bustle, you want for the overrun effect, and then sometimes if you can line it up, you'll use the Hustle half. And I think Push Pull is a little bit the same.
Yeah.
Do you feel similar?
Yeah, a lot of them. I actually think, like, when I saw Hustle Bustle, I thought it was only the back side that mattered. And then I've come to be pleasantly surprised by the front side.
Okay.
And Push Pull, I agree. It's like kind of the opposite, where you thought like, oh yeah, the backside might come up, but it actually just comes up a ton. So
yeah. I found that really interesting. But yeah, slamming this Public Thoroughfare here, this is perfect for where we are at this point. So that certainly makes us feel a little bit more comfortable about having the dragon. That starts to kind of steer us in the right direction.
Potentially yes, but it's not like one thoroughfare is gonna fix all your problems.
No, yeah.
So I'm still a bit worried here and feeling that like lack of direction.
Yeah, okay. I never thought I would have to type the words officious interrogation as many times as I had to do while I was preparing for this video. I think we see about 4 of them.
Oh, yeah. And that's definitely not something interesting here. And this pack is just bad.
No. This kind of sucks, right? We've got the They Went This Way, which is not the fixing that we want, and the Rift Burst Hellion. These are kind of the only things we're thinking about.
Yeah, I don't know. The Hellion is like a better card than They Went This Way. If you're going to be like a teamer-ish deck, it's definitely like a pretty nice card to have. This is like one of the disguised creatures where it really doesn't matter that much whether or not you can play the front side.
Yes, yeah.
Just having a bit of beef is super nice. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, he passed up on those like creepers, and there's like the undercover crocodile and etc. he could have taken earlier, and so I think I think it's like fine to take the Hellion here, but I don't know. The Wind this way might just like be the fixing he needs.
Yeah, sure. I feel like I've been a little higher on the Hellion than others, just because having that morph in your deck, disguise creature, sorry, in your deck that is just annoying for the opponent to have to think about. You know, like, do they need to block that because they might die if it's the Hellion? Do they need to worry about their kind of important creature in combat because it might be the Hellion? I found has some value, but I might just be overvaluing just big expensive dork.
Yeah. I don't think you necessarily are. I think it is like fairly powerful. But anyways,
yeah. Okay, cool.
Taking the he went that way and took that one.
Wait, which way?
Exactly. This way.
What? I thought it was this way.
Yeah, that's what I said. That way.
I'm so lost. You belong on this channel, Simon. All right, what do we got? Oh, that's a sight for sore eyes.
A good card.
Oh, sigh of relief.
2 good cards. There's a tipster as well.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Man, if you'd taken like some of these boards, the tipster would have been great in his deck. There's also not a public thoroughfare, honestly, but you probably can't take that over these. Like, he just really needs removal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the tipster is like incredible for these green decks. I think he has not been doing a good job of drafting a green deck because he just hasn't taken any disguise creatures, and I just think those are important for green. So I don't know. It's maybe fine to not take the tipster here. He really can use.
Yeah, and I mean, with the kind of going back to what you were talking about before about how needing to slow the game down and needing to have some interaction and having literally none, I think, at this point, except for the exit specialist.
He also didn't take the torch.
That bite down is just
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. You probably just have to take the bite down here. It just sucks. I mean, we love a good tipster.
Yeah, I agree. Where are you at on Eliminate the Impossible? That's a card I loved early in the format, but I feel like the format's settled in such a way that it's not as good as I originally thought.
It's worse than the Deuce, but still fine. It does something similar.
Okay, yeah. All right, next pack. Fairy Snoop on the job. Deduce number 3.
There's also a Pride of the Hulk lady.
Out cold. Yeah, have you had a chance to play with that one?
I have no idea what this card does. Let me read it. I just know it's a big turtle boy. I think the third Deduce is going, like, you just don't have the removal to support the Deduces at this point. So I think I would just take the big blocker because it's probably fine, right? It like seems pretty easy to cast it for not that much mana.
Yeah, that's been my experience. Obviously it's a mythic, so I've only seen it a handful of times. But yeah, it's not that hard to get it down cheap. And
to play for like
the ability looks like it's supposed to be pointed at itself, but you just point it at one of your flyers and draw 3 or 4 cards off it, and it's kind of cool. I'm basing that off a fairly small sample size, but
since he is both blue and green, like you can absolutely take the Pride here. So yeah, I think it's a fine pick here.
Totally. So there's an out cold in this pack as well. Given that we're a little shy on interaction,
I don't think it's the
is that a strong consideration?
It's just like, there's this daily saying I keep like using in regards to in regards to cards like the he actually picks the out cold. Okay. Well, in that case, Jean-Emmanuel, listen up closely here. Using out cold as removal spell is a little bit like pissing your pants to stay warm. Like, it's gonna be warm right now, but it's gonna get cold, like, And those creatures that you try to remove without cold, they're gonna untap. And so it doesn't actually work if you're trying to go long. However, if you are putting pressure on the opponent, out cold is totally. But he's just like not doing a good job of that right now in his deck, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the conventional wisdom on these kind of cards is they are not. Excuse me, they are not control cards. They are tempo cards. You need to get on the board and then freeze out their guys for a couple of turns. I'm probably wrong on this, so please smack me down on this. I've liked Out Cold a little bit more than the usual version of this effect.
No, it's way better.
Control decks. Because it cantrips, right?
It's absolutely playable. And I can see why Sean thinks that this is like works for his deck. He might have also had better experiences with it than I have, but I think in general, it doesn't really do what you want to do. It's like, I think I would just rather have a 2/15.
15's a lot.
Okay, I would rather have it to, like, I don't know, 8 or whatever the relevant number is.
We need to get 17 lands on figuring out what the bar is for that toughness. But
yeah,
exactly.
no, he's also open to be banned. Like, what if he gets a high alert? You know, like that's like pretty hard.
There we go. Hey, again, draft punks. This is what we've been doing lately. We've been trying to make that happen.
All right. Well, there's another bad Panther in this pack with the treacherous terrain that I guess he just has to take. Once again, for going
I haven't actually played with this one much, and it's kind of just another case of the Shattered Pack kind of card that can just randomly burn them out at the end, right?
Yeah. I guess it also has a front side. Sure. I don't know.
Simon has never read the text on this card. This card just says basic land cycling 2. This card can't be counted.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, love it.
And it goes in the graveyard, right, for your collect evidence. So.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the Panther does. It's just,
hey, just in case your dragon needs to deal 8 to take out their essence of
the whole plate which you passed.
There we go.
That's
we've solved it. Love it. So we got the case of the Trampled Garden here. This strikes me as another one that is better, like out cold when you're leaning.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, maybe he can like twist the deck in that direction at this point. It's a little tough though. The issue is that he just has these like Caduceus and no disguise creatures, so he just doesn't really have a curve of creatures. He has a bunch of like non-creature stuff, and also like he's been winning picks on like the fixing, like the Went This Way, a Treacherous Terrain, and Case, which are all like, you know, they can't all go in the land slot, right? So those are more like spell slots that are spent on not creatures. And and he's probably also going to have some removal at some point, and so those also go. So he's just not going to have the creature density to make this card good.
That's totally fair. Is there a chance that with the out cold and taking the case here, we might be thinking about going back in that Bant direction if we can pick up some of those white cards in pack 3?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this pack went exactly as expected. There's just no white cards because you passed too much white. And I mean, maybe it could happen in pack 3, but yeah, unsure. There's this Lightning Helix came like way too late here, which is kind of funny.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think that's on the wheel actually. Yeah, wheeling a Lightning Helix is kind of amazing.
And I think you should have picked it here. I think it's
as exactly a potential playable for the deck.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you're never going to play the Hotshot Investigators.
Exactly. And and then you can pick I think it's fine to pick a bounce spell here, but you can also pick the Crowd Control Warden, which you should have done in previous iterations, right? And then like, you know, you have the white mana to be able to hard cast the Warden, that makes it good. I think he's just like undervaluing the morphs too much, honestly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's just like nice when you have like just 6 like disguise creatures in your deck, and you can, you know, you just like have this flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, I love Unauthorized Exit.
It's very good,
watching the channel
recently,
and
I think at this point he probably should pick it over the morph just because he just needs any sort of interaction. This is also has the like same pissing your pants quality as Out Cold, but at least it lines up way better against the opposing disguise creatures, where like you force them to flip up and then you can bounce it. It's also a combo with Dramatic Accusation, which is another removal spell he would definitely be fine having in his deck. Where you can like...
Oh, true.
Yeah, I mean, you do need...
I can't believe I haven't done that,
Yeah, it's like, my mind was blown when some of my teammates told me about it. I was like, oh man, I got to do that at some point. And I got to do it at the PC, so that was nice.
Oh, nice. That's very cool. You haven't mentioned, and JD didn't show any interest in the Furtive Courier. Is that not something that's of interest to you?
No. So in general, any 3-mana X2 just gets worse because it's replaceable by a disguise creature. In terms of like its defensive value, and the Courier only has text if it's attacking, and right now if your deck is going to be species splashy, you're not really interested in attacking. He has like kind of solidified himself as like maybe less of a species, like he's trying to be teamer, I think, at this point.
Very heavy blue
and
green,
so you can have Warp Curve and it gets a little bit better, and it combines with like, you know, maybe pick up a Gear Drake, and that's like, you know, more synergies for that whole thing. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not. I would definitely pick the Crowd Control Warden over it as well.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess I've liked the Courier in blue-red, but maybe even there I'm overvaluing it. All right, so not a whole lot to round out this pack, but yeah, you're talking about the 3 mana 3/2s because I think Coverage mentioned in your second draft that you're not that into Projector Inspector.
No. It's fine, especially in blue-green, because there's a bunch of detectives and it enables your collect evidence. It's not a bad card, but yeah, it's just another 3/2, and I would just rather have a morph, or not necessarily rather have, but I don't want to, like, in my deck building, I don't mind that I don't have a Projection Inspector because I will have a morph instead.
Sure, yeah, just sense. It's...
So I don't need to prioritize the Projection Inspector. I can just take it, like, later, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not significantly above replacement at that slot in your mana curve.
So anyways, let's take stock of what we have of JD's deck at this point. He has... Yeah. In terms of 2-drops, he only has the Examiner and I guess the Exit Specialist right now. And then he has like the fixings, right? The Case, the Thoroughfare, and the Land Cycler. And that's like what he's trying to do early. And then he has like, outside of the Specialist, not a single Disguise creature at this point. So he doesn't really have 3-drops, I don't think. And then he has, of interaction, he has like the Bounce Spell, the Repulsive Mutation. He pulls in the Crawl Whipcracker because he thinks it's a card you can... I think I would really just like not want to splash like at this point.
100%, yeah.
If I can avoid it.
Yeah. And that actually kind of leads into something else that I was kind of curious to get your opinion on. A lot of the commentary about this set has been you have to do something on turn 2, have to play a 2-drop, can't be cycling Topiary Panthers or playing Public Thoroughfare. Like that's a recipe for disaster, which has not been my experience, really, especially when you're on the play. I felt like setting up like that and then having 3 to 4 drops that stabilize has been
it's totally fine.
Plan.
Presumably, the white drafters will have cannibalized each other to the point where none of them have the nuts curve thing every time. And so, as long as you have like catch-up mechanics, it's usually fine to not do anything turn 2. If you have to, you prefer to do something. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's not make it or break it at this point. It's also, by the way, coverage that like they have to, their like draft viewer is like optimized for 15 cards, but there's only 14, so they have to like put a little like dash at the last pick because when they see like,
nice.
It's kind of funny. By the way, I also want to note that he picked up a last pick Basilica Stalker here, which actually makes me a little bit more excited about being black because I think that card is pretty good.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And
that's one that every
just
time
because
I look
like he's lacking Disguise creatures, and that is one.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, next pack here.
Let's take a look at pack 3, pick 1. We've got another bite down on crime, and I think we've got a Raucous Theatre hiding in there somewhere, which he doesn't seem particularly interested in.
Yeah. I think I would pick the bite down over fixing. I think I would prefer Thoroughfare over the Raucous Theatre, just because it fixes his red better, and he's not at all guaranteed to be black. I would have picked any Teamer colored land over the bite down, I think.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
yeah, that would have been an interesting pick actually. Yeah, giving him the blue red duel versus bite down. That would have been an interesting decision. But, I think we're definitely happy to pick up some more interaction here.
Yeah, for sure. And so is Jean.
So from your perspective, we're looking for more morphs, more creatures to just kind of fill out.
I have 2 bite downs on crime. Yeah. I have the Repulsive Mutation. Like, I have 3 cards that demand me having a creature. So I just want to pick those cards really high here.
Yeah.
And so there's a Topiary Panther for like more fixing, but you kind of like have a lot of like stuff like that already. So you might want to take the Crocodiles. I think you could consider taking the Crook, honestly. Because it's kind of like both a creature and a removal spell.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that when I first looked at this, but yeah, you mentioning the fact that we've got, I think it's 3 deducers by now, plus the Evidence Examiner. The Crook's pretty good.
He only has 2 deducers, but yeah, you might be able to pick up more stuff that does something similar.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting.
I think would you like set up the knife? I think, especially like if you'd also take the Torch the Witness and you could like take the Crook, and you end up with like, you just like a solid Teamer deck, and it's gonna be fine. You not have to like Don't have to be like 4 or 5 colors here. I think at that point you might also have enough fixing that you don't need the Panther here. But yeah, I don't. The issue is that there's a limit to how much fixing you can have that are just like basic land cycling. It just doesn't help that much with your colors making them work. And here he there's another Panther again, and like that now, like the last pick looks kind of silly because like now you definitely can't take the Panther. And
again, if he'd just taken that Panther in pack 1, pick 3 or whatever it was, it just would have solved so many more problems later down the road.
Yeah, definitely. It would have allowed him to take like more of the cards he really wanted here. I mean, he's probably going to end up taking one of the black cards here, which is sad because I think it's going to lead him into an awkward direction. I think you could almost even consider taking the Dog Walker here. Because you're trying to fix a double red anyway. And you just want disguise creatures. Like you have 2 bite downs on crime. They're perfect to use on a disguise because they have Ward 2. So like I just really want anything. And the Dog Walker is like fine. Especially, I mean, he didn't take the Lightning Helix either, so he's certainly not splashing white, but you could see a direction where he's kind of like both colors and can even play it face up in like once in a blue moon. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I love that perspective. Yeah,
it's also like a disguise creature. It doesn't even have to be like something that's especially good in your deck because the opponent's going to be scared of it and they're going to be like, like aggressively attacking into it, so you can just like trade it off for something that they would normally not want to trade off for 2/2. And they're gonna like spend removal spell on it. So disguise creatures just have a lot of value. I guess they have a bit less value because this is gonna be open deck list, and he doesn't have any other disguise creatures, so they'll just know that it's a Dog Walker. But
sure, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it only the featured matches that are
only the featured drafts? Yeah, it's because some of Jean-Emmanuel's opponents could have like looked at this. Like some of their friends at home, right, could have looked at Jean-Emmanuel's draft, told like, okay, Jean-Emmanuel has these and these tricks, etc., and then like there'd be no way to stop that. And so Jean-Emmanuel just would be at a disadvantage from being in a featured draft, and that shouldn't happen.
Yep. So that's only the featured draft, or it's not everyone in this pod.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now this is a nice chance to get you to talk just a little bit more about the Insidious Roots chalk outline thing. Sounds like your team wasn't particularly high on it.
Yeah, I don't think Sean's deck is well set up for it right now. He just
no, but I guess just like speaking in general, is that
I think
when you see those cards early, are you excited or just not?
No, I think we're just ignoring them.
Okay.
I think it is possible, but I think it's not good EV to try for it, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
So I would encourage when you're drafting for like just semi-fun, which is like in the arena draft, you're still playing for something, right? But you're not playing for thousands of dollars. Absolutely do it. Like it's a really cool thing. I want to do it. I want to do the like projector inspector thing with the blue black guy that comes back from the graveyard and like your chalk outline, you get like that whole loop. Like I really want to do that, but
that's so sick. Yeah.
So I mean, it has value, but not really for what we're doing here.
Yeah, cool. And part of the problem I've found, you'll be unsurprised to hear I've tried a few times, is having just one of those effects is usually not enough. If you can get a couple of them in play, you can kind of go off. But they're uncommon. It's hard to reliably get the number that you need. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
This pack here doesn't seem to offer too much for us.
No, then? I'm just happy to take a morph here.
Yep.
And
cool.
That's just
let's smuggle some bubbles. Yep.
But yeah, definitely an very unhappy fourth pick here in pack 3.
Yeah, Novice Inspector at fourth pick in that one as well.
Mm-hmm. And now finally this pick here, you can take the land, but you don't have any white you're gonna do, so you're probably just gonna take a Vengeful Creeper and move on with life.
Yeah. I would imagine when you're in a like a 2-color deck, you'll play a half-on Surveil land pretty happily, but not in a deck like this.
You would also play it happily in this deck. It doesn't actually matter if you're... Okay, he does go for the Crocodile. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's like kind of a stronger card. It's just that I value having the first Creeper more than having the first Crocodile.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sounds like of those expensive common morphs, Creeper is kind of right up there for you?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, I think it's one of the better ones because of just access to like blowing up an opposing basic binding or whatever it might be. It's just like fairly strong. And here you have to take a second okay, I couldn't say that. Unauthorized exit. And yeah, it's like, I mean, you took one earlier, so the second one has less value. I guess you could go back to that pick. I think he once again passed a disguise creature for it, which is sad. He would have loved that, but I think in the end at least.
Now, does unauthorized exit fall into a little bit of the same camp as out cold in that it's better when you're on the board? It's not great as a kind of controlling strategy.
Bit better because I think this veil matters a lot, and as I said, it just works better against like opposing disguise creatures when they try and flip up and you get them with the exit. It's pretty strong.
Absolutely, yeah, or any of the combat tricks.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, we're getting towards the end of things now, where we're probably not going to see too much more, unless... Oh, come on, JD, work with my timing here. Foil basic, let's go.
Oh, escape tunnel. Oh, we are so surprised. That was not at all set up on purpose. Yeah, escape tunnel is perfect here for
that was just incredible gift at pack 3, pick 7.
Honestly, the suspicious detonation would have also been very nice in his deck.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Again, because like, I think maybe even it could have been the pick if it stirred towards more of that teamer space, because you just like have a few like clue producers, and it's like ends up being a fairly like efficient removal spell. I guess he doesn't have that much clue producing, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so is that kind of a I'll take it when I'm really struggling for interaction? Or is that no, I'm actually totally happy to have one of these in my red decks kind of card for you?
I'm fine having it in a red deck that can support the cost. Like, if you're like a red-white deck and you only have like one Novice Inspectors, you only like, then it's not good. But in like a blue-red deck, it's pretty nice, and in a teamer deck, it also works well for the same reasons.
Okay. Last paper draft that I did, I had an opponent really show me what you do with it, which is he had the Reckless Detective to blow up his clues for free, and then just cast the Detonation for 2 mana.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a nice combo. And now he gets a second season assist, which makes the earlier one pretty silly as well.
Oh, he picked it so aggressively early. Oh.
That's always the worst, right? When you realize that your table is not valuing the cards to the same level as you are.
And when you're at the Pro Tour, do you start to get a bit of a sinking feeling when that happens? Like, oh, am I not understanding this properly? Or is it the opposite? Or you're like, yeah, they don't get it. They don't know.
I don't know. In pack 1, I'm always like, yeah, they don't. Especially if I've planned a little bit for it, where I'm like, oh, I really like this card, but I'm not going to take it now because maybe they underrated. And then it comes back. It's like such a great feeling. But in spots like this, it's like, I really, really messed up, didn't I? Offender at Large is really good morph, worth noting.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's not...
Yeah, big fan of that one.
This is necessarily that good in his deck, but probably still fine. Sometimes you are going to be attacking. It's very good when you are.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're just really happy to have the 5 mana flip morphs.
Just a bunch of them, yeah. Like get them in my deck.
Most of them you've seen pretty high on. Yeah.
They're just good. It's fixing.
Yeah. Now, if you're me, this foil forest wouldn't even be in the pack. I would have picked that the first time around.
That makes sense. And you would have had a very curled forest that you couldn't put in any deck.
Sorry, just come to Australia. They curl the other way.
Oh, true. Right. Yeah. Because Southern Hemisphere. It makes sense.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Good. Let's jump to JD's final deck, and we'll get some final thoughts on what we think of this.
Yeah. So I think, okay, first of all, I think there's something wrong with the deck viewer here. I don't think he has a thinking cap in his deck. He might be splashing the Mortipede. Though I don't think he picked one up, right? So I think
I don't think so. I think
that's also a mistake. It wouldn't be unreasonable to splash because he has 2 bite downs on crime, which is a combo with it. He's playing like both seizes and assist. His deck is just like not very green, and he has these like it's just like a weird spot to be in. Like I don't think green was particularly open. I think he likely shouldn't have been green at all. But it's like weird to navigate out of green from his position because he started with. Oh, there's also like it's not showing the
evidence examiner.
Evidence examiner is for sure in here. And yeah, that might be like another green card is not showing because of the right farm modipy. Is like replacing that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think this is a good example of a 4-color deck. I think he could have had a somewhat more cohesive teamer deck if he had been playing towards it, taking more clue enablers and clue sacrifice payoffs, and going into using some of those blue tools in a green shell. I think that's totally fine. Like they went this way into Corner Crew. It's a pretty good curve, for instance.
Oh, nice. Yeah. True. That's a great one, actually.
So it's just worth noting that like that's a thing that could have happened. I don't think JD was aware of the power of that. And I think as Sona should take, and I think the Incinerator would have worked well in that deck. The other direction this could have gone is just like leading more into the white cards when you pick them, or he could have like not have wasted the picks on the white cards and had a few more like good disguise creatures in here. Yeah, I don't know. I would not expect him to 3-0 this spot. I think in fact he goes 1-2. I think he starts 0-2 in this spot, which again doesn't surprise me. It's not a very good deck.
Yeah. Although there was a very famous, well, no, I shouldn't say famous. There was a much talked about play in his match against Ben Stark.
Oh yeah, when he makes a block. Yeah, I haven't actually seen that match, but that's okay. I'm glad that that's the block that's being talked about and not my block in my feature match in round 10. But
okay, my punts on camera with the draft punks are just like a regular talking point on the channel. Now I see what the strategy is. You just need, it's a bit like home security. You just need to make the house next door seem more attractive. You just got to make sure the other punts are worse than yours.
Yeah, exactly. So you just like, try and just focus on Adrian's punts and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, see, I'm always the one piloting, so I just get all the blame for the mistakes and he gets to make fun of me the whole time.
Oh, I see. Yeah, see, that's where you need to switch it up a little bit. Or you could just start using the line, well, at least I'm not Jean-Emmanuel Depraz.
There's the thumbnail for the video. Love it. Beautiful. No, I thought that was fantastic. That was really good because that's it's interesting that you like the same kind of approach that JED was clearly favoring here. But the execution of it, yeah, but the actual execution would have been done quite differently for you.
I think so, yeah.
I'm thinking about with some of the things that you said in those first couple of picks, where if he'd gone, like, even if he did first pick the repulsive mutation, if he took the reckless detective next, and then suddenly we start to see the pathway into a heavier red.
He maybe could have been blue red in his seat, maybe.
Totally.
Not sure. There were no gear drakes and no, so I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
It's also like it's a pretty tough seat, I will admit. But
yeah, absolutely. And I've found that a lot in these drafts, especially these ones where you go for these green decks. It's not easy picking a direction. I've found.
Yeah. It can definitely be challenging to find the right spot. I think awareness of just having a broader awareness of archetypes that exist helps, because sometimes there is a direction you could have gone in, but if you don't realize that an archetype exists, it gets harder. For instance, again, repeating myself here, but the teamer sacrifice artifacts thing, I think that if you're not aware that that's a thing that is good and that you can do, it's harder to spot that in this draft.
Of course, yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. I learned so much from that. That was incredibly insightful. Beautiful. Would you like to have a look at your own draft?
I would. Yeah, let's do that.
Beautiful. Let's do it. All right, we're going to get away from Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, world champion, but apparently not that good, and let's go check out Simon Nielsen and see if we can rip his draft apart instead. All right, we're back for the main event. This is the one that you are all here for. For the third one of these videos in a row, we have been able to reconstruct Simon's draft. Now, by some incredible miracle, his first pack had 13 Aurelia's Vindicators and a single Gleaming Gear Drake, and you'll never guess what he picked. We'll talk about that in just a sec. Simon, is there anything you want to do to kind of set the stage for this feature pod?
Yeah, so once again, I am 7-1 at the Pro Tour. I 3-0'd my first draft pod after being like 30 seconds away from being too late to participate in the draft because I decided to bike to the site and got lost. But I got there. It was an adventure. It was cool. I sat down all sweaty at my draft pod and opened Devious or Deadly Cover Up. And that's great Black Sweeper, and then I drew it every game, and my blue-black control deck was great as a result, and I 3-0'd.
And that's how you top 8 4 PTs in a row. Just open bomb, play bomb.
Yes,
easy.
It definitely helps. Like that, yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have in your arsenal. And then I went 4-1 in Pioneer with my constructed deck. My only feature match was round 4, where I got completely bullied with playing Boris Heroic by Twitch chat. They were like very they were saying that I was bring a limited deck to construct it as well, which was like maybe not too off the mark. But I got to I got to do the deck justice and go 4 in the next round. So I end up at 7-1, which is exactly what I want, because that means I get to be in the feature pod, and hopefully I would be the feature drafter. End up not being, because the 8-0 player is Jesse Hampton, who has 2 previous Pro Tour debates, has fallen off the scene a little bit. He's kind of like a draft god. He was like, he did like 100 drafts leading up to this tournament. And he was part of Team Handshake as well. So he was a big part in us developing our draft strategy. So Jesse was seated right next to me, passing to me. So I knew that I couldn't do our usual strategy of just like being a 5-color deck. I would probably get like bricked by Jesse, but maybe there would be something else that would be open. So, for instance, like I had decided that I would on day 1 pick Nervous Gardener over Tunnel Tipster because it's better for the 5-color deck. But likely on day 2 there would be someone who was also up to the strategy in my draft pod, and then I should pick Tunnel Tipster over Nervous Gardener because I think it's better for the green decks. So that was like kind of like a weird the pick order being fluid throughout the tournament. Situation. So,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, so I'm expecting not to be a 5-color control deck. I'm expecting that Jesse's gonna be a blue deck, and that I'm gonna be like a green deck, or maybe even a white deck. That could definitely be open to me. And the rest of the table is not that strong. We have Jason Yee, who is who's like one of the they played their first Pro Tour here, and it's like one of the they won the limited GP in Vegas. That was like running at the MagicCon, and that's how they qualified for this tournament. And they're like generally an incredible strong drafter. So that's like another one that I was like kind of scared of and expected could also do something similar. Like be open to these 5-color decks. I know in Eldraine their strategy was just to be 5-color every time. So
so Jason Yee is Jason ILTG on Twitter. So if you're anywhere near the draft scene on Twitter, you would know them as just incredibly strong.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't. Oh no, we got to see some of their draft matches on camera, but one of my, just to get out of draft just for 30 seconds, one of my favorite rounds from the coverage of the PT was Jason versus, it might have been Javier on Phoenix, and it was just some of the most mind-blowing Magic I've seen. Things like playing Wandering Emperor in your opponent's upkeep rather than ambushing their creature. It was there were just some really, really intelligent plays made from both players in that. So I'd recommend watching that if you're at all interested in just good Magic. But anyway, so a couple of good drafters at your table, but not as many maybe as his previous PTs.
Exactly. So it for part 1, I think it was fairly weak. There was a bunch of people like playing in their, some like their first PT or like one of their early PTs. I was passing to Adam Edelson, who also ended up top 8 in the Pro Tour. Goblin Lackey on Magic Online, who's more of a constructed player, I would say. But I think he ended up going 6-0 in limited actually in this tournament. Sparters, I guess. That was not me. But yeah, so anyways, I'm getting passed through by Jesse. That's the big deal here. This time I'm seated on the left side of the feature drafter instead of on the right side, which means that my very first pack looks like this in our draft viewer.
Yeah, so pack 1, pick 1, and pack 3, pick 1. We don't have a record of, so we know that Simon took a Gleaming Gear Drake over Aurelia's Vindicator. So please tweet at him with how he is a very bad drafter, doesn't know what's going on. Although you did give me a very good reason for why you did that.
Yeah, avoid Wyatt. No, okay, avoid Wyatt. Obviously the Vindicator is something I would have picked over literally anything in the set. And yeah, the thing is that like the way we reconstruct the packs is that we look at the feature coverage from Jesse's draft, and then I know which order I pick my cards, and then we can just reconstruct it based on like we know the pack that Jesse's going to send me because that was all on camera.
Yep.
And so we can reconstruct that.
Exactly.
Way. But the first one here,
let's take a look at that.
Yeah, the first one here is not actually reconstructible, because.
So here we go. We've started with the Gleaming Gear Drake.
Yes.
And we see this pack. Talk me through this.
So. Well, you're not gonna let me defend the whole like Aurelius Vindicator pick. I hope no one is confused about what's going on there. But I took a Gleaming Gear Drake. I don't remember what I took it over, so that's why we can't show that. One thing to note about the Gleaming Gear Drake is that it, first of all, it's like a really strong uncommon to pick. It's one of the best uncommons for the blue-red archetype. Which is a strong archetype to draft, and it's also very splashable. That's something that's like maybe not super obvious about the card, but. It's just like a 2/2 flyer that draws a card for 4 mana as well. And so so that's worth noting that I'm picking this and not thinking I'm going to be blue-red. It's more like, I would like to be either blue or red to support this card.
And it goes nicely in that Team of Clues strategy you were talking about earlier.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of which, I here see an Evidence Examiner, which is another one of those like strong uncommons. Multicolor uncommons that actually goes well with the Gear Drake because they kind of like feed off each other. So, or at least like the Examiner will feed the Gear Drake. So I'm definitely not unhappy to take an Examiner here, even though it's a multicolor card of a different color combination. Also, the pack is a little bit weak. Like, I don't know if anything else here is like springing to your eye to talk about here, but.
No, not really. I guess if you thought that the Gear Drake was committing you, then there's a few decent red cards here. I like the Granite Witness a lot, but I would have been on Evidence Examiner as well. And I'd be perfectly happy to just move in on that kind of card, even over the Gear Drake. But as you say, they work well together, so that seems totally fine. Yeah,
exactly. There's also like the Person of Interest potentially. Like it's not a red card, but yeah, both of those I think are just a notch weaker than the Examiner. So I would rather keep my options open and like preferably like see if I can be a teamer deck here. If Jesse's gonna draft a 5-color deck, the other deck we really liked was the teamer deck.
Yeah. And that's really interesting actually. I just like to hone in on that point about the multicolor cards, because I know one of the things that the Lords of Limited guys have been talking about is how this is not a format where you can first pick the gold card and then just push hard on that. They really value kind of what you were talking about earlier, picking the hybrid card and staying a lot more open or trying to get deep into one color. But the way you're talking about the Gear Drake and the Examiner is they're not just 2-color cards that go in a single combination. They are flexible cards that can go in a couple of different archetypes.
Yeah, exactly. I think Examiner is like very similar to the Drake as well, in that it's like, it's a 2/2 that draws a card. It just doesn't have flying, which makes it a little bit weaker as like if you can't play it turn 2.
Sure,
but yeah, still pretty nice. And also and I also want to point out something else here. I said that like Jesse I'm expecting him to be a 5-color deck, so I want to be teamer. And it sounds like, wait, aren't those kind of the same thing if you're like one of these green 5-color decks? Notably, when I say 5-color control, it's like usually a blue-black base splashing other colors. He ended up being like a Grixis deck where he was red-black splashing blue, but it's kind of still in the same vein of the strategy. So that's what I think he's going to be. He's going to be like a blue or black base multicolor deck.
Interesting. Oh, wow. That hadn't occurred to me. Yeah, whenever I hear 5-color, I'm usually thinking base green, but you're actually thinking the norm for 5-color is not base green.
Yeah, so this is why we like the Gravestone Strider like so much, and also like the Thoroughfare and the Evolving Wilds Escape Tunnel. Is that like these are ways that you can fix even if you're not green, and usually end up being enough if you get like a few copies of them. And I'm not expecting to get these cards, but that's so if I'm gonna be more than two colors, I'm gonna have to rely on being green as a base color.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I really enjoy that. I like that a lot. Okay, great. Let's have a look at our next one. Okay, so coming into pack 1, pick 3, and we've got a Gear Drake and an Evidence Examiner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the Panther and the Forensic Researcher.
Yeah, those are definitely considerations, and the No More Lies, kinda like that's another one of these like strong multicolor cards, but it probably goes like a bit too far in a different direction than I need to.
Yeah.
The Forensic Researcher, I think maybe I'm underrating this card. I haven't actually ever played with it.
All right.
And it does work pretty well with these like blue-green collect evidence things, because it's like a way that you can like play like some payoff, like a chalk outline or whatever it might be. I mean, not specifically chalk outline, we don't like that one, but like let's say the Thopter Monitor, for instance, and then you can immediately use the Researcher to make another Thopter for free. So like that that makes or I guess it's called Surveillance Monitor, but yeah, so like those sort of synergies makes the Forensic Researcher pretty nice. Plus it's like can also ramp you to 5 and so on. But honestly, as I said, I don't expect to get much fixing of the colorless fixing out of Jesse, so I'm gonna just pick the Panther here, and it sets me up well for my Collect Evidence card, and can also like be, I think that helps me splash. The argument for the Researcher is that I could still just be straight blue-red, so maybe I should have picked it for that reason, but I don't know. The Panther ends up being pretty nice in my deck, and I think you're just usually not that unhappy to have a Panther early pick. Yeah,
no, I'm really happy to pick that up early. I think I would take Panther here as well, but I've played a lot of the Researcher because there are a couple of cool synergies with it. Like you can untap the Detective Satchel to make a bunch more Thopters. You can untap your thing with Buried in the Garden on it for a bit of a mana burst. But even just on its face, having just a little bit of extra mana in the early game, and then by the time you get to the late game, it's a pretty reliable tapper that doesn't cost any mana. So even just the card on its face, I've liked quite a bit.
Yeah, and exactly. I actually passed this card to Adam Edelson, who I face in round 10, and I lose solely because of the Researcher tapping down my Panther. Like that exactly. Like these two cards actually end up like matching up in the arena, and the Researcher comes out ahead.
That's funny. That's like that kind of like beginner draft card evaluation thing where you go, well, this thing kills this thing, therefore this one must be better.
It must be. Yeah, that's why you always take the most expensive card, because it has to be, because it's big group each other in combat, right?
Cool. All right, I like that. Okay, so we're setting up nicely for a kind of teamer sort of thing. In our next pack, we see Cold Case Cracker, Person of Interest, maybe Hustle and Bustle, but I think we're looking at... I think Cold Case Cracker would be where I would look.
I don't think I want to take the Hustle and Bustle this early. I do like it, but I think... Well, I think like the Cracker is just clearly the best card in the pack to me. We are not as high on Person of Interest as I think the 17 land stats are. Mostly because we don't like white as much, so that means like the red-white synergies of the Person of Interest is less interesting to us.
That's it. It's so good in red-white because On the Job and all of the other like white multiple body makers just makes it fit so nicely. But yeah, in like a blue-red sort of thing, it's not as powerful.
Yeah, exactly. It's also nice in a Junt deck with the Case of the Shadowed Pact because it creates a blue-white token.
Oh.
Synergy.
Just play Nid-Miss it. That's an easy way to do it.
Yes, Cold Case Cracker, easy pick here. And I'm happy to see Jesse like pass me this. Also, like the exit, I guess that's like not really a signal at this point, but just at least like lets me know that like maybe he's not locked in on blue, which I know his preferences. So I'm gonna see if I can like ride that blue train, or at least like pick up all the blue cards that he's letting me have, so that I can close off blue to the side. Turns out that my neighbor's straight blue-red, so I mean that doesn't work out super well, but
I'm going to give Adrian some extra editing work here. Adrian's going to put an airtight alibi counter up on the top right here, because we see about 16 billion of them.
There's a lot of airtight alibis, yeah.
I know, because I had to type every single one of them to set this up. All right, let's go. Next pack. Okay, this looks like the world's easiest tunnel tipster.
Yeah, I'm so happy to get a tip to fourth. I mean, it's like for these green decks, like these base green, like not fully 5-color decks, the Tipster is like the best common you can have, and it's like you're gonna pick up disguised creatures. You've seen how much I value disguised creatures, so this card just ends up being like kind of like a MANOR plus Tarmogoyf type of thing. It's like not that hard to make it a relevant threat. And the way just accelerate your game plan, where you can also just like start hard-casting these more early on. It just makes you like keep up on tempo and like compete with the white decks fairly well.
Yep. No, easy tips to her. I love that one. I did want to ask you about Reasonable Doubt, just because what you were talking about before with building your deck around instant speed interaction and deduce and being able to kind of do everything that flexibly. Does that mean a card like Reasonable Doubt goes up in your pick evaluation?
Not really, because it doesn't interact with the board at instant speed. It does play okay with deduce. It's more, I think it's like good when you don't have other, like when you're lacking 2-drops, it can kind of be your 2-drop, especially on the play, or I guess the same on the draw. And then it does pair well with deduce once you're doing that, because then you can, do either. But it's not a high priority. I end up actually not playing it in my main deck. I end up picking up one later, and I think I should have, after talking to Jesse about it, how to construct my deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. I think my deck was a good spot for Reasonable Doubt, but yeah, it needs.
Okay, great. That'll be good to talk about once we look at that.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's move on.
Cool. All right. Now we get the Jean-Emmanuel Depraz special with the Crawl
Cracker. Yeah. So
but this is really interesting.
It's actually an interesting pick, yeah, because I already have a first gear Drake, so obviously like they do well in multiples. But kind of so does Tipsters. There's like more of a limit to how many Tipsters you can have in your deck than there are to limits on gear Drakes. But it like really leads me strongly in a direction here. I'm also not at this point, right? I have the Panther, the Evidence Examiner, the Cold Case Cracker, and a Tipster, and then one gear Drake is my only red card. So there's like no guarantee that I'm gonna be splashing the red. I could be. But taking the Tipster just like leaves me a bit more open to see what comes. And if I'm just blue-green base and have some fixing, I might open a bomb of another color later, and I'm just gonna end up being blue-green plus that color. So I think the Tipster is the pick here.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I love that reasoning.
But yeah, this is what puts Adam into blue-red for sure. Is this Gleaming Gear Drake now?
Okay, yeah, and I guess that's an important thing for you to clock, because that's a powerful card to be passing it at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty late. Like getting that 7th pick is like super late. So
yeah.
But also looks like a strong pack, right? There's still like other good cards left in the pack, so like just looks like it was a strong pack to begin with.
Sure. Yeah. Just to get a brief bit of self-promotion on the multiple gear Drake thing. On our last Draft Punks draft video, we faced an opponent who had what I think would be a close approximation of a constructed clue deck. They had at least 2 Gleaming Gear Drakes, 2 Detective Satchels, and 3 Crime Novelists. And they got all of this out at the same time and just stormed off.
I actually faced a deck like that in round 2 against Odin Niolakos of Magic Online fame, a Greek player, where he also had multiple Crime Novelists, Gear Drake, and Satchel. And was no match for.
Well, unfortunately, he ported his draft deck from the PT into Arena, and then
that must have been it. That must have been it, right? But I think like when you're blue-red, these things happen, right? Because a lot of these uncommons are really like there's like first of all more of them in the pod than we're used to having uncommons, and they're also like less attractive to other people. Like people are just not going to be interested in Crime Novelists. The Satchels and the Gear Drakes, like maybe people know what's up and know that they're very splashable and great cards to pick up for a lot of decks, but. Like you could probably have pods where like people don't realize that, and then you just get all these cards for free, and it can be a real strength of blue-red. It's like how good the uncommons are.
I found it's a little bit. It's kind of dichotomous in that when you get there, it's the best possible thing you can do in the format, but when you don't, it's miserable. And I've not had much of a halfway. Like you really need those payoffs for the decks to be good. Yeah,
that makes sense. You can also if you end up seeing like Adam's deck, he ends up like he's the one who ends up free-owning the pot because he gets 3 Gear Drakes, a Satchel, there's like the one that makes Thopter every turn, and he has like all the good uncommons as well. No Crime Novelist though, but yeah.
It's so sick. Yeah, no, when we faced that one the other day, it was one of those cases where you just kind of sit in awe and be impressed at this incredible thing that your opponent's doing, which is cool. I like it when you can get moments like that.
All right. So wind down here. We have two tunnel sifters at this point, and some like a cold case cracker and an evidence examiner, the Panther, and then also the Gear Drake, which is a may or may not something we play. And I get a pack here which has a Surveil land, and we already talked about this. I think you're absolutely on board with this pick as well. We just got to take the Surveil land here.
Love it.
Might be off color, but we're not sure yet. We could be white eventually. So it also could end up as fixing. And so that's kind of nice. Yep,
exactly. And if we end up picking up Gardeners or Bloomkins, then it just gets even better. But it's just great on its own. So we're very happy to grab this. Now, if I remember correctly, I think Jesse, to your right, was thinking long and hard about the dual land here versus escape tunnel, I think. Now, what I'm curious about is, so he took the escape tunnel. What would you have preferred to have here?
In my deck? I think Jesse was not looking particularly green or white. He passed like 2 tunnel tipsters, right? So he knows I'm going to like pick up the tunnel tipsters. So he's, I think, navigating in a spot where he's not necessarily green. And so for his deck, I think he would rather have the escape tunnel. And I think for my deck, I'd rather have the portico. So I think we split that up nicely.
Okay.
Because I might also end up not splashing and just be a straight blue-green deck. And in that case, having Surveil 1 is way better than having a little bit of extra fixing. Like, it can't be understated how good it is to get a free card for your collect evidence. When you can play an evidence examiner turn 2 and immediately make a clue, so you can just trade it off and still be up on value, that's so powerful.
Agreed.
So these surveillance are what enables that. So I can't speak highly enough of them. I think they're incredible.
Yep, I'm 100% on board with that. That's exactly how I feel as well. Simon, one day I would love to do one of these videos on gameplay instead of the draft itself, because one of the interesting things that I'm probably only starting to pick up on, that I suspect you've been on all along, is when you see the spell on top with your Surveil, a lot of the time you're like, yes, I love spells. I don't want to draw lands. I love spells. But I'm starting to come around to, you should just stick it in the bin because it's just free. It's free clues off your evidence examiner. It's just, I
end up actually losing a game because I've been a morph. I was a bit greedy, but you can see that in my Magic and Adam. That's okay.
Cool. All right, let's move on. I found the gameplay in this format to be more challenging than any that I can remember.
Yeah, I think maybe that could be a good video for the future if I'm not in a feature pod, but I'm in a feature match. Like that could be something we could do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's have a look at this one. Here's alibi number 2 for Adrian's counter. So we've got a couple of blue and green cards here. Talk to me about what you like here.
I think it's very, very clearly Glintweaver. I'm super happy to get this card at this point. It goes well with my double tipster. Something that's a little bit dangerous with having too many tipsters is that you don't have things to spend your mana on. So I'm happy to pick up the Glintweaver. If I'm going to be like a defensive deck, this card is like incredible top end that saves me in a bunch of spots. Talking to Jesse though, I think I actually should have put the Glintweaver in my final deck, which is something I wasn't fully aware of was even allowed. But I think it's definitely a good pick at the point I'm at right now, where I don't necessarily know where my draft is going. So
the Glintweaver is obviously incredibly powerful, and I'm on board with it here. I've found it a little bit awkward in these kind of decks though, because with the double tipster, you're incentivized to take a large amount of disguised creatures, which you're high on anyway. And so I often find my pools end up with, a couple of crowd control wardens and 2 Hellions. And then I've got all of this top end stuff to do that I can also cast cheaply and synergizes with my tipsters. And I'm like, well, I'm looking for cuts on the top end just to bring the curve down a bit. And the 7-drop that is only a 7-drop and doesn't really synergize with anything often ends up on the chopping block.
Yeah, it actually easily could be on the chopping block in some of those spots. So I think that's definitely worth noting. But it's kind of more of a true top end than you're just playing a Riftburst Hellion for 7 mana. It's not super exciting, but playing out a Glintweaver is. So it depends a little bit. You can also have it as a sideboard card if you're playing best of 3 too. It's really good against the aggressive decks, but ends up being kind of medium if you're playing against a more controlling opponent.
True. Yeah. All right. Moving on. All right, so not a whole lot for us here. Are we interested in a suspicious detonation at this point?
Here we actually see this is the pack where that should have been 6 Aurelius Vindicators left.
Oh yeah, sure. So really we're looking
we
at...
see what the actual rare was in the pack. It was Anthrax Rampage, not super high, I'm thinking that highly. Or and the case of the Ransack Labs, just like 2 dot rares. So the suspicious detonation, I mentioned this earlier in Jean-Emmanuel's draft, and this one is, I think, just like kind of nice when you're already doing this clue thing with Evidence Examiner. And so if you're like in a teamer deck, this is a removal spell on Fine Splashing. Yeah, I just wanted to note that I'm actually like totally fine picking this up here. In general, in blue-green, one of the issues is that you're not going to have that much removal that you need, so you need to like look out to the other color to find that. And which removal spells you get will often determine what your third color is.
Yeah, nice. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, at this point, picking up the detonation goes well with the Gear Drake. That would be by itself. If I'm just blue-green splashing those 2 cards, that would probably be fine, depending on the fixing I get.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. So no, okay. So actually, this one's interesting. Can you talk to me a little bit about the sample collector? Kind of how you value that.
Really happy to see it wheel here. So I mentioned that the X2s and 3-drops are worse because they're 2 toughness. So 2 3s, on the other hand, there's not very many of them, but they line up super well on the 3-drop spot. It's not.
Yeah.
It still has a little bit less value than you would think because it's a 3-drop, and you just get your 3-drops from your disguise creature. So like all the 3-drops just get a little bit worse. But this sample collector also works well with the Evidence Examiner. If I have more things that I care about collecting evidence, this one is okay. The issue with it, though, is that it works much better on offense than it does on defense. Because it needs to attack to have its trigger work. So it means that like I don't necessarily want to be a fully like controlling deck. It doesn't work as well in that strategy. If I really want to like use this, I have to pair it with like combat tricks, and so it can get to attack in more boards, and generally like trying to curve and have like tempo tools. So stuff like Out Cold, for instance, would go well in this style of deck that I'm drafting here. Even though I said it didn't go that great in what Jean-Emmanuel was doing.
That makes total sense. Yeah. I like this. Sorry, I like the sample collector a lot as well. Just a 2/3 is just such a good stat line in the format. But yeah, there is some tension in that a lot of the green decks are more defensive. So I really like what you're saying there, where you look to pair it with things that work to get your guys through.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think one of my issues with this draft is that I'm still too much on the defensive mindset, where I think at this point with the sample collector, I should be aware that it's like, I might be more of a sample collector deck than I'm a Glint Weaver deck, and that this means this should impact the type of interaction that I prefer and like what I'm actually looking for. And I think I end up like being a little bit short of making a quite good aggressive blue-green deck. And I think maybe I could have fixed that during the draft here. So we'll see how this goes on. But that's something I'm going to be aware of here, where like my deck went wrong, and see if I can patch those holes.
Great. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Let's keep an eye on that. So closing out this pack, there's a Fanatical Strength to kind of go along with that plan.
You're missing a pick here, right? I think you skipped.
I can't imagine I would ever make a mistake.
No, you didn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Okay, yes, Fanatical Strength. As I said, you want to pair combat tricks with the with the troll there.
And this is a good one. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's another combat trick. So the Outside Alibi.
True.
I think we actually end up having it like as better than Fanatical Strength, but it's kind of like a weird thing where if you have too many of them, like it's not. It gets a little bit clunky. But the fact that it just has so much utility here, like using it as a combat trick is super nice because it just leaves it with a big body. Untapping can be like blowing out someone in combat that way, and the hexproof also matters a lot. And then sometimes even the like suspected thing can come up. You can even like in some weird spot you can like use it on the opponent's creature to stop it from being suspected if you like really need to block it with something.
Yeah, okay.
So it has like a lot of utility, and that utility I think makes it like worth more than the Fanatical Strength, which Fanatical Strength is better if you're aggressive, but works a little bit less good if you're more of a mid-rangey deck. So I'm definitely very happy to pick up the Outside Alibi at this point here.
That's great. I had previously been thinking of this as kind of just a sideboard card for heavy interaction matchups, but after seeing the matches that you had on camera for this very draft, I was sold on the Airtight Alibi. You used it in so many different ways, and it just looked incredible.
Yeah, I think it is pretty good. So at this point, I get to have a chalk outline here. At the end,
Yes.
that's like mostly a sidebar card. I actually end up bringing it in against Jesse in the draft here, but
cool.
Then I just die with it in hand. Or I play it and it like never triggered. So it was
nice. Yeah, classic. Yeah, love that. Cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
right.
so at this point, I have like a bunch of green cards, and I have a cold case cracker and an evidence examiner, and then maybe the gear drake. I have like the detonation that deals 4, which could be splashed alongside the gear drake, or maybe I'm just straight blue green. We'll see. But I'm mostly like solidifying myself in green. I suspected like Jesse's been taking out some of the blue cards. But that's okay. Maybe I can get blue cards from the other direction. Turns out like both my neighbors are like touching blue, so maybe I won't get much of that.
Okay. All right, good. Let's jump into pack 2. So, this is interesting. So we got your first 2 picks from the last pack, all in one location. But I've only got eyes for evidence examiner here.
Yeah, I think that since I'm guaranteed to be blue-green and not as guaranteed to be gear drake, I think you just gotta take the evidence examiner here. I also note that there's a sample collector and a Visual Galaxy Inspector. Both cards I would be very happy to wheel. Probably more likely to wheel the sample collector. There's also the blue-white land that I'm eyeing. Like it's not super likely to come back, but if it does, that goes well with my green-white land, and it really opens up a spot where I could splash white. So it also means I'm going to, if I see like a white removal spell, like a makeshift binding relatively late, I might want to like pick that one up as the removal spell of choice. It could be splashing.
That's nice. Yeah, keeping an eye out on which colors you're more likely to end up splashing. I like that.
Yeah, but anyways, taking the same examiner here, they also work really well in multiples. If I also get like some surveillance monitors, usually like the more copies you have of these, the better they get because they start like feeding off each other, and that's very powerful.
Yeah, great. And I love the Inspector. I tend to pick it really highly in these decks because it's the thing that catches you up after you spend turn 2 cycling the Panther. Is then you can just play a 2-mana 2/4 reach that gains you 2 life.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a perfect like thing to do on turn 4. Cycle Panther plus play that one. So yeah, this pick is a little bit less exciting, and there's like the rare is like off bounds here. Like there's just a few good black cards here. With like the Fairy Snoop is okay in these like blue-black controlling decks, but that's not where I am. Novice Inspector, nice for a white deck, but I'm not a white deck. There's like just no green cards here, except for like I guess the Whipcracker. So I'm actually gonna be a little bit reluctantly taking the Projector Inspector here.
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken that with a Celebration, but you're slowly bringing me down on it.
Yeah, it's also like I have the sample collector already. There's a sample collector I might end up wheeling. So that's already taking up 3-drop spots. There's also like the the Crime Stopper Sprite is another 3-drop you can play. There's all the like disguise creatures I really want to play for my tipsters. It's just not that impressive. I do have 2 evidence examiners, which helps, and like these are all detectives. The Visual Galaxy Inspector is another detective. There's a lot of detectives in green. The Elephant as well. So there's like a lot of things that could work well with it, but it's mostly just that like your other features are better. Like I would have picked, if there was a removal spell of literally any color, I think I would have picked it over the Inspector here.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, when I've got 2 evidence examiners, I love just being able to have free looting.
Yeah, it definitely helps. It's like good, but it's just mostly the like spots it takes up in the curve.
Sure. Yeah.
Where like you're just gonna get enough free drops, so like all the free drops just get like low value. That's also why the sample collector, like I'm not gonna pick that before the wheel, for instance. Like you just don't need to prioritize them.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because like it sounds like we both like it, but I'm thinking like for me before this conversation, it was probably my top blue common. But you're bringing it kind of outside the top 4 even.
We have even like Dramatic Accusation over the Projection Inspector, which I, by the way, would have happily picked up a Dramatic Accusation here over the Inspector.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because also blue-green lacking removal, and it's like a fairly playable removal spell.
Great. Okay, cool. All right, so a reluctant Projector Inspector.
Woo!
Okay,
Not reluctant Tunnel Tipster.
Yeah.
I guess there's also the second Lush Portico. I was actually considering this. So getting the third tipster kind of like it does start asking things of my deck. because it means that my 2-drops are really set at this point, right? Like 2 evidence examiners and 3 tonic tipsters is like incredible 2-drop selection. So I don't have to think about that anymore. But I do have to think about ways that my deck just doesn't flood out. If I'm playing 18 lands, which you often want to do in this format, with 3 tipsters, I have the Panther, which like, maybe sometimes I need to cycle it anyway to like fix my colors. You can see how it would be very easy for my deck to flood out if I don't have like things to spend my mana on. So that's something we want to have to consider. Obviously, if you just get a bunch of disguise creatures, that they kind of like work both ways at enabling the tipster, both in terms of like being things you can spend mana on and also enabling the triggered ability. But yeah. So I think it's gonna be worth picking over the Portico here. If I knew what was gonna happen in pack 3, I think I would have taken the Portico. Well, for multiple reasons actually, because I end up passing a tipster too, which you'll see. But,
okay, yeah, we'll get to that.
So yeah, my deck would have been better if I took the Portico, but I don't think you can reasonably do that here.
No, I'd agree with the tipster here. I'm totally with you on Disguise being one of the better mana sinks in the format. Are there others that you're looking out for? Because like having expensive thing is not really enough.
Like in terms of mana sinks?
Yeah.
No, I think clues is the other thing, right? That's like just more clue generation gives you things to spend mana on. So obviously that's why the examiners also work particularly well with the tipsters.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. No, I like that a lot. Okay. Cool. So tipster number 3 gives us
looking at that crocodile to come back, maybe like crossing my fingers because that would be perfect for what I'm doing here.
Yes. And decent chance that happens as well. All right, next pack. I think okay. No, I know you like the Crowd Control Warden as a morph, which we're definitely looking for. But there's the Cornered Crook, which looks quite nice with our clue strategy.
Yeah, honestly, looking back at this, I think I should have taken the Cornered Crook here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I end up taking the Crowd Control Warden, but that's probably wrong. Interesting.
That's interesting, and this is where the number of tipsters that you have really starts to like put tension on your picks. So the number of tipsters
is what leads me towards the Warden. I think also if I didn't have the green-white land, so the Crowd Control Warden, I think it's really important that you can cast the front side sometimes at least. But since I have a Panther, maybe I end up playing a Plains, and I have the green-white land, maybe one of the like other white lands end up tabling. You can reasonably cast this on the front side even if I'm playing Teamer. And it works really well with the tipster because tipster is really good at spamming creatures on the board, and then the warden comes in as like a 5-mana 7/7.
Yeah.
But I actually really need removal, and having 2 evidence examiners makes the Cornered Crook so much better. So I think I should have taken the Crook here.
Interesting. Yeah, great. That's a really interesting one to talk about.
I think my deck would have been worse for it though, as things end up. But yeah, we'll see.
Sure. Yeah. And my feeling, like, I really like the Crowd Control Warden as well, but I have found that, like, the 5-mana disguise things do come around. Like, it's, you get the Vengeful Creepers and the Crocodilfs and this sort of thing at kind of that point in the curve a little bit later anyway.
You need to pick them this highly. That's for sure. I'm not happy to pick up a Crowd Control Warden here.
Okay. Great.
But yeah, it's also my really morph count right now is pretty low for having 3 tipsters, so it's something that I need to actively prioritize.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, coming in here, not a whole... Well, okay, there's your favorite Culvert Ambusher.
My Culvert Ambusher, there's the Crocodile, there's a Public Thoroughfare to help me splash.
Yeah.
There's a Tin Street Gossip, which is like... also a card I could play in this Teamer shell. Like you can, again, kind of see how these strategies kind of like morph together, right? Because you have like the Crocodiles that are really nice, the blue-green deck, and like in general, any like disguise creature, because like you can trade them off and they go into the graveyard for collect evidence. And then the Gossip is like a way to pay you off for having expensive disguise creatures. So the Teamer packages kind of like work well together. We also have a great rare, which I'm very happy to get at this point.
Talk to me about the Coveted Falcon.
Yeah, what's not to say? So it's like a Mulldrifter a lot of the time. What often happens is that let's say I have like stuff like a Makeshift Binding or a case that's like of the like Shadowed Pact, like stuff like any permanent like that. A Airtight Alibi is another thing that like it can just sit on a creature, you can donate it to an opponent and it doesn't matter. You often have something that is like kind of free to donate. Then you give them like, if you're kind of spare, you can give them like 1 or 2 lands, and then maybe you can give them another thing. And so you can draw like 2 to 4 cards over this one. and then you get to attack with it and like take back one of the things that you gave them. So that's like essentially how it plays out. And obviously having a 1/4 flyer that draws 2 cards is insane, I think. That's like the Fairy Snoop, but way better. And it has a higher upside than that. If you're like in a late game, sometimes you can just donate 5 lands to them. Because both players have enough lands, it doesn't really matter. And sometimes it also just like maybe you flip it up in response to a removal spell. And like even if they try and target the morph, you can just donate the Falcon to them and draw a card. So right, and that's another 2 for 1. So it just like ends up like just playing out really well in a bunch of situations. And definitely, awesome. I think it's an easy to underrate rare, but I think it's one of the like good rares that you like are happy to have. So sadly, I'm gonna have to pass like all these other cards. Like I would have been happy to have like Gossip, Crocodile, even Ambusher or the Thoroughfare here.
Yeah, stack pack for us. Yeah, there's a point on coverage where you give your opponent your alibi that's attached to your creature, and just my whole world just like opened up before my eyes. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's very nice when you get to do that.
Yeah. And so this is one where going by the 17 land stats, I think can be really deceiving, because this is the kind of card that people will not use properly or not utilize to its best. But everything you just said points to a really high ceiling card if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to set up. It's also like quite good if you have a sweeper, for instance. Like you can just donate your entire board to them and then can play a sweeper. Like, there's like a lot of things to do with it.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm picking every Falcon I see now.
You should. I mean, it's cool. Like there's not that many cards that are better than it. Like other rares are going to be better, and like maybe Torch the Witness. So
okay,
that's the range we're in, right?
That's awesome. Okay, cool. No, that's a huge level up. I like that a lot. All right. Agency Outfitter. Let's go.
Definitely not happy about that one. I'm not gonna put my magnifying glass in the deck. I'm just gonna pick a Crime Stopper right here. This is what I said that like that it just like your 3-drops are just easily filled up. I could maybe even take a shading format here if I think I'm like teamer, but because it's a morph, it works way better on defense than it does on offense though, so I don't really think it's for this deck. I think Jesse ends up picking it. It's way better in his deck.
Okay, yeah. It I suppose there's some kind of cute synergy in that, like if you just run it out as a morph, trade it off as a morph, then it's got the high CMC, which is nice for your evidence examiners.
Any disguised creature does that, and so
that's it. Yeah.
I think I'd rather have the Sprite in case I end up being more aggressive. It could like fill a nice role in my deck, even though it's another 3-drop, which again, like kind of concerned with the number of 3-drops in my deck.
Yeah. That aren't morphs, which you already want.
Exactly. That's the issue, right? Like, especially if I get that sample collector back. Like, I'm at 4 3-drops at this point. Plus, I'm gonna have like 6 disguised creatures at least, right? So that's like 10 3-drops. It's like a lot. So, But absolutely. Also, if I'm liking interaction, I want to be aggressive. Like, it's kind of like it has some synergies with the deck. Maybe it's fine.
Totally. All right. Worlds, we just like windmill slamming a bubble smuggler here, or
I'm gonna take Not on My Watch. I'm overrating this card.
Okay,
So it's also possible I should take Ensemble players. Honestly, this card works very well with morphs. You can just play morphs from the top of your deck. Regardless of their power. So it's pretty strong, but I'm also like I don't think I need that in my life. I think I'm more concerned with my lack of interaction at this moment. So I'm looking at the Not on My Watch, but I think this is a bit of a flaw in... I'm just like... I don't think that the way my blue-green deck is moving, which, I took up like these 3-drops, I have the Crime Store Sprite, I have a couple like combat tricks, I have like these tipsters. Everything is like looking kind of like I want to get on the board and be more aggressive. I specifically want like 4-drops a lot to go with my tipsters. That's what I'm missing as well. And then like the way that Not on My Watch interacts, even if I end up splashing white for other reasons, I could play this. It doesn't actually do what I want to do. So I don't know. I think I would have taken a push pull because it works with my tappers, like the Crime Stopper Sprite, for instance. But
oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, none of my watches probably not where I want to be, and I think this is where something I misidentify. I also end up playing it in my deck actually, main deck, which I probably shouldn't have done. So I think maybe I should have speculated on the assembler players, just in case I end up being white for other reasons. It might actually work pretty well in my deck, but I'm not quite sure because if I, end up playing more like 4-drops, they're all gonna be like 3 power, and like my Glint Reaver, and maybe like it doesn't actually work well in my deck, and maybe I don't need the also stuff like the Panther, right? There's like gonna be a lot of things that don't actually work with this. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I should have just picked the Bubble Smuggler, but I think that's not super necessary here. I'm gonna be able to pick up other morphs, and so the Bubble Smuggler has like lower priority. I think I also end up having a Bubble Smuggler in my sideboard at the end anyway. So
okay, yeah. I mean, if just as I was looking at this draft blind, I see the note on my watch. I'm like, great, premium removal, snap it up, but now I'm looking at it in the context of the conversation we've had, and the things we've been talking about are the tipsters push us in a direction of wanting to have more disguise creatures. The tipsters want us to have more mana sinks, which the Bubble Smuggler is as well. And so at some point we need to start making some sacrifices in order to make that happen, because we've had a couple of picks in a row now where we've said, we'll get disguise creatures later.
The assembler players is like, it's also very nice with clues because you can like clear off the top and then until you hit something to play. So it also ends up being kind of a mana sink as well. And yeah, I think honestly it would have worked better on my deck. That's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, and so this is one point where when you're kind of trying to put your deck together, it's not just about what colors are you, what are you splashing. This one's a really nice illustration of what's your plan. Are you trying to be aggressive tempo? Are you trying to be control-y? Are you trying to maximize your synergies? Like, I feel like that's really nicely encapsulated in this pick.
That's a good one. That's definitely one to note. And I think there's a lot of like also like general draft strategy lesson that I can pick up of this. Just the like awareness of not trying to lock myself into a style of playing the game that I've gotten used to because of my team strategy. That like, especially like the realization that having a bunch of like clue things with the double examiners doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a control deck, because the only way that supports a control deck is if you have the interaction. And I just have to identify at this point, I'm just not going to get the interaction. I'm just not going to get enough to be a control deck that can like, take advantage of evidence examiners, like drawing me 3 cards over the course of the game. I have all these extra cards, but I need some other way to push through. And maybe that is by utilizing stuff like my Crime Stopper Sprite and like just being a relentless deck. That's kind of like a good description of a type of deck where like you're an aggressive deck, and the advantage you get is that if the opponent tries to stop you, they fail because you have so much stuff. But if you try and defend, it doesn't work because your cards are 1/1s, like tipsters, right? And you can't actually stop their like flyer at all. Or you can like maybe tap it down for a few turns, but it doesn't work if you're like not putting pressure on them, right? So card advantage can do 2 things, and yeah, one of them is like making up for having 1/1 removal, and the other thing is just by making you really hard to deal with on defense, and like when you put the opponent on defense. And so I think that should have been my angle. And none of my watch actually doesn't work with this, but the Assembler players does work in this plan.
I love every word of that. And one thing I'll just highlight to the viewers, Simon, close your ears so you don't hear this. Simon is possibly the best player in the world at the moment, and he's looking at this draft through the lens of, this was a mistake. I should have done something differently here, and this is the lesson that I can learn from that. And that's not easy to do. I know when I'm looking at my drafts, I look at them and I'm like, no, I was right. I didn't make a mistake. Stop criticizing me. And so to see the literal best in the world being able to have that kind of self-critical eye is huge, and is why he's the best in the world. So I just wanted to highlight that. All right, unblock your ears, Simon.
Okay, next so I was actually like covering my ears, but I realized I had headphones in, so it didn't work.
All right, so I hear there's some people that are really high on the Sanitation Automaton just because it's a 2-drop, but
it's great.
How do you feel?
It's real. Yeah, it makes sense that you would be really high on it. I'm like not lacking 2-drops right now. I am lacking interaction. If I open a black bomb, like a Sony or something like that, I'm gonna splash black, and then I would love to have a slice from shadows on the splash as well. So
okay, yep. And I mean, at the moment,
but I don't have that much fixing at this point, right? I only have the Panther and then a green-white land. So
yeah, and I mean, we don't really have a splash direction either. You've got the one. Oh no, you've got the Gear Drake and the 5-mana removal spell.
And I have and I have the Not on My Watch. So
okay,
which I'm counting as removal, which I shouldn't, as we just discussed, right? But so I'm just picking the slides from shadows in case. I'm actually wondering here if I should pick the Hasta Vigilante. That's kind of interesting, like, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. My deck is gonna have a bunch of like morphs in it, and I can ramp it out early, and maybe it's good, but.
Chuck those counters on your evidence examiners.
Yeah, my sample collectors, like make that a 3/4 attack, make it a 4/5. Like it's kind of nice.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that.
So that's interesting.
I
don't
like
think I should reasonably have spotted that in the draft that I was going to be banned though, but it's funny. I think I stand by the slice pick. I think that's the best pick for me here.
Yeah, agreed. There was something that that Jason Yee wrote recently, which was about don't waste your picks. Don't take bad cards, right? Because like in the position that you're in, most of the cards in this pack are just kind of replacement level. But exactly as you say, if you open up a really good reason to splash black, all of a sudden this slice from the shadows is premium.
Yeah.
So picking that here gives you the opportunity to have a premium card in your deck, and you're not sacrificing much.
Yes.
Cool. Next pack. Simon, I found your win condition.
The Millstone? I actually got a last pick Millstone in my first draft deck, and I was like so excited to board it in against someone, but then I only faced aggro decks, so it didn't work.
Cool. I assume we're snapping up a second sample collector
sample
here.
collector. As I said, I expected that one to come back, and this, But again, it's like kind of an issue with my and at this point, I think I should also just realize that like Not on My Watch plus sample collector is just not a combo. So yeah. Again, just like highlighting the awkwardness of that pick. But sample collection plus assemble players is a combo.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure your cards are pushing in the same strategic direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a sealed match in the Arena Open recently where my opponent had just the nut black-green graveyard deck. They were really good at stalling the game out, and then they had just insane value from the graveyard. And so when I went to sideboarding, best of 3, of course, I had an outrageous robbery in the board. Mm-hmm. I'm like, can I double splash for just this card as my win condition? So keeping an eye on those. Yeah, exactly. It's mostly meme, but hey, there's spots where it'll come up. Cool. Couple of late morphs. We're going to be very happy to see that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm happy to pick up a Bubble Smuggler at this rate. So yeah,
beautiful. Love it.
Again, I'm missing morphs a little bit here. I think I pick up the Reasonable Doubt. Maybe I should have picked the Windows way. I probably should have picked the Windows way, but I'm not really like the issue is I'm not really going in that direction.
No. Yeah.
So I think
Reasonable Doubt works kind of nicely with the tipsters as well, right? If just like more mana means you can hold it up.
Yeah, exactly. If you can like play a 2-drop into holding up the Reasonable Doubt, that's kind of nice. So yeah, I agree. I'm picking the Reasonable Doubt here, and I think I should have played in my deck after some consideration.
Yeah. If you'd taken the Cornered Crook earlier, would that put a high priority on they went this way?
Then I might have gone with then I might have gone that way. Yeah.
You would have gone that. You're on the right draft channel. Cool. Second airtight alibi?
Yeah, sure. I might play a second. I might board it in. It's okay.
Yeah, totally. And that rounds us out. Okay, so as we're heading into our final pack, take stock of where we're at. What are we looking for from pack 3?
So I don't have much fixing right now, which is kind of to be expected. It's really awkward to go into the last pack needing fixing, because other people are probably in the same spot where they open the bomb, the reader want to splash it, they're going to high pick the fixing. So ideally, you would have had the fixing ready. The things I have right now is that I have my early game set. I don't have much interaction though, and if I have to grab interaction from other colors, I also need fixing to go with it. And both of those types of cards are going to be high priority. So I think I'm honestly, I should probably try and see if I can line up my deck in a way where, I mean, any bite down on crime I see, I have to like pick that really highly. And otherwise stuff like Out Cold and like maybe more crime stopper sprites, like stuff like that, like the Unreasonable Doubt. Oh no, sorry, the bounce spell, whatever it's called.
Unauthorized exit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, that one. Or exit specialist or anything like that. Like stuff like this is probably what I should imagine my interaction to be, and then I can just do that. Or I can maybe move into this teamer space where I just pick up like because right now I only have the Panther fixing for it, which is not enough. But if I do pick a little bit more of that, then I unlock my detonations as well. Or my detonation, there's only one right now. Maybe I can pick up a second. Or maybe another red removal spell. So it's kind of like depend a little bit. I'm going to have to be a little bit flexible here and see what I can do. But at least my creature base is like fairly good. I really want like another 4-drop or 2 to go with my tipsters. I only have the Gold Case Cracker at this point. So like just a few more like things to curve like 2 into 4 would be very nice. But otherwise, I'm like kind of set on creatures. I don't have that many morphs right now. I have the Bubble Smuggler. I have the Crowd Control Warden, and I think maybe that's it. Maybe I'm really low on morphs as well.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it looks like we need some more
it's like
morphs
but I really want to pick those up like late because I have these other priorities I'm gonna get. So my deck is actually like, even though my 2-3 looks great, my deck is actually kind of struggling in a lot of the other departments.
That's really interesting, though. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's see where pack 3 goes. You opened 13 Izonis.
Yeah, what can you do? You know. No, I did not. This is one of those packs as well. We can't reconstruct it. I don't remember what I took Tulsimir over, but I opened the Tulsimir. I remember it being a really tough pick.
Oh, right.
And yeah, because the issue with Tulsimir is that it's double white. So it's not an easy splash. It would have been a slam pick if it was single white. But the thing is that even though it's not an easy splash, it's still a possible splash. I don't right now have enough fixing for it. I have 1 green-white dual and a Panther. So I'm gonna need to pick up like 2 more pieces of fixing at least, and I can play 2 planes, and maybe that works out. So I think I end up taking with the upside that like it might just be good enough. I also have a white removal spell. I'm thinking with the Nut on my watch, again, it's derailing me, but obviously if I'd picked the Assemble the Players, I would have been more likely to want to splash white anyway for the Salt. Like that could be a package, right? Even though Assemble the Players doesn't really work with Tulsimir. Sometimes it like helps dig towards it.
So obviously we don't know exactly what was in this pack, but let me just put a few questions to you. If there was your 3rd Evidence Examiner, if there was a Bite Down on Crime, how would you consider those cards against Tulsimir?
I would have taken Bite Down on Crime, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think there was a 3rd Evidence Examiner, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
I think so. But that's not what I need right now. Anyway. I think what else would I have picked over it?
Exit Specialist.
I think I would have picked Exit Specialist for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that's sort of like piece of interaction that works well with my deck. It's also a morph, which would be nice. So I think my option was Evidence Examiner versus Tulsimir. If there was like a good piece of fixing, like maybe I would pick that.
Nurturing Gardener, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, like a Gardener. Yeah, I think I would have picked Gardener over Tulsimir here. So, but I don't think there was any of that, and I don't think there was like compelling off-color removal that I was really into. So I ended up like going into Tulsimir. It's kind of like I'm not sure I'm gonna play this, but maybe things break in a way where I just like get 2 more pieces of fixing, like not for like kind of free, and then the upside on this is really high.
Yeah.
So because I also do have the option to splash the red, right? So that's still in my mind. Which is why this is kind of an awkward pick.
Yeah. That's really good for me in particular here, because I'm all about maximum greed in these green decks, but you're talking there about identifying the things that your deck actually needs, and you don't need more power, you need interaction, you need more morphs in this particular
No, I kind of also like would like to have some power. It's not my 2-drops are good. It's the only thing that's good about my deck right now.
Sure.
So yeah, I could definitely use some like top end power to like play a Tulsimir on turn 4 is going to be incredible off my tipsters if I can make that happen.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, let's have a look at a card that doesn't have a pack that doesn't have 13 Izonis.
It has 2 escape tunnels.
Can we take both of them?
No, but I'm definitely gonna take one. Yeah, I'm actually not sure. Maybe I misremember the order here. If there was actually 2 tunnels in the pack, but anyways, I think it makes sense that I would pick a tunnel out of this pack. It's like definitely you're not really gonna get them later. So So yeah, I'm happy to pick this one up, and then that would that's kind of like another nudge in the filling out the column of enough fixing for my Tulsimir.
Yeah, cool. I think that's a slam dunk. Actually, yeah, looking at the number of cards in the pack, I think I probably wrote this deck tunnel twice. So yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's seems to be a pretty clear slam dunk on this pick.
Yeah, that's fair.
Beautiful. Okay.
No, actually, hold on. If you go back, it's kind of if I had a little bit more fixing, taking the case of the Getaway Express is not something I even considered, but it would have actually been pretty nice in my deck.
Yeah, actually, we've seen so many pilfered proofs through the draft. I keep thinking they're all there, but yeah, Gateway Express is awesome.
This is another one that maybe I mean, I'm not going to take it over the tunnel that fixes for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an interesting one that I didn't even consider.
Yeah, agreed. No, that's worth highlighting.
There's also by the way, the case of the Crimson Pulse in that pack, which is I think a pretty good rare. But again, if I just keep taking rares in different colors and no fixing for either of them, it just works kind of awkwardly. So
story of my life.
Yeah. So this pick is kind of interesting. We have the Eavesdropper and the Cold Case Cracker, and so you have to figure out
really interesting.
It's nice for me to get a 4-drop here. I would have loved to get those a little bit later and get some of those removal spells or premium fixing here, but I definitely want another 4-drop. I would have loved to have both as well, but I think the Eavesdropper ends up being slightly better than the Cracker, because first of all, I actually don't have that many blue cards necessarily, so I could maybe be a point where I just play fewer islands because I have fewer blue cards, and also, I have the evidence examiners that are gonna make clues to enable the eavesdrop. I have these other ways to make clues that, and I also have the projector inspector that draws cards. It's so I have these, and the Falcon. So I have these other ways of enabling the eavesdropper where I think it's gonna be a 4/4 vigilance more often than not. And so I think the eavesdropper ends up being the pick here over the Cracker, but they're pretty close. They're very similar cards.
Yeah, nice. That's interesting, and I guess it gives you the clue up front.
Yeah, so in case there's any makeshift binding or dramatic accusation, anything like that, you still get paid off.
That's a really good explanation of the difference between two similar looking cards in this pack. Nice. Okay, all right. Are we snagging a third evidence examiner here?
Now I'm definitely taking the evidence examiner here. And the Hustle and Bustle would also be really nice for my deck. I wonder if I should have picked it here, because it also is kind of a removal spell as well in some sense. And it gives me that sort of finisher I could really use. If I'm a deck that is doing the tunnel tips of thing, I'm going to prioritize the disguise creatures. I have one Crowd Control Warden right now. If I can pick up a second, or a Crocodile, these sort of big morphs. I don't have that many of them. I also have a Bubble Smuggler. The Hustle Bustle actually ends up producing a lot of damage. So I think maybe I should have picked that one here. Just to have a way to finish the game. But also the Examiners are so good in multiples. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough. Maybe the Hustle Bustle tables and I can pick it up on the wheel, but there's no guarantee.
It would be some pretty extreme discipline.
Yeah, actually,
I don't know if discipline's the right word, but oh man, I just so rarely pass an evidence examiner when it's so good in a deck like this.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. I don't have that much evidence enablers as well, so it's not insane. It's mostly just that it's a consistent 2-drop because I'm gonna be base blue-green. That then also has this other upside of drawing cards sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it works with itself, right? You don't.
Yeah, if you have two of them, you can end up being multiple clues, which is nice. So.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay, all right. Bite down on crime. I assume we're just slam dunking here, but
no, I would have loved to take the Tusker here. Tusker is one of the best pieces of fixing because it's also card advantage, and it's also you can just play it as a big dumb dude. And as I said, I'm looking for an extra, at least one more piece of fixing for my Tulsimir, if not 2 more pieces of fixing. So this is a struggle pick for me, but I just have to take Bite down here. I would have loved that things were swapped a little bit, so I could take the Bite down last pick and then take the Tusker here, but that's not how it shakes out.
Yeah, that's tough. So for those that aren't familiar, the Tusker has actual cycling. So you still draw a card off it, and then it has just a triggered ability that gets you a land out of your deck. So it's like a Panther that draws a card for 1 extra mana on the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a divination, essentially.
Nice.
It draws
I like
a land
that.
and another card.
Tusken
So you can
Crowser
see any
is
card that is like
divination.
split card 7 mana 6/5 or divination that also fixes your mana guaranteed. Like that's like drawing a basic land of any type is better than drawing a card.
Sure.
In these multicolor decks, right? It's usually the card you want to draw the most in most spots. So yeah, it's like even better than a divination.
Cool. And this is about the 13th Anzag's Rampage.
And it's instant speed too, so you can do it while holding up other stuff. Just very
yes. Fun. Yeah. Yeah, huge. Yeah, no, love that. Okay, so reluctant fight down on front, perhaps. Okay, so I imagine we're very happy to see a hedge maze here, although this Maverick does kind of work nicely with the triple evidence examiner.
Deck, I don't think. And also the hedge maze, like being on color and Isabel land. And also, so this is not quite fixing for white, but it does allow me to put an extra planes in my deck, so it's kind of fixing for white.
Yeah. I think that's an unappreciated aspect of having your on color duel means you can afford to run 1 extra. Off
kind
color.
of, but drawing hedge maze plus planes doesn't allow me to play evidence examiner turn 2, so it's not like perfect. This worth noting, but still, like this would work in a pinch. Like this gets me to a point where I might be able to splash the Tolsimir. If I think I'm not a piece of fixing, I'm definitely splashing Tolsimir, but maybe this is good enough.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, we're definitely slamming their hedge maze here.
Regardless,
with that,
I don't think the competition is like particularly interesting.
No, yeah, I agree. But with that kind of more aggressive tempo-y sort of bent that you're talking about wanting to lean into, is there a case for the Trampled Garden?
Sam, you break my heart. I feel like you're going to make that joke at any point throughout the... But now you just, like, trampled all over, like, any sense of, like, tact and tone. And this is not the point to bring up the case jokes. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure leading you up the garden path and bringing it out at the 2.5 hour mark.
Yeah. Wow. You know what, Sam? You know what? You're such a reckless scoundrel. Really, that's what I think of you.
We're derailing. This is not good. Onwards.
Okay. Well, please don't make this a repeat offense. At least, like that would be. All right. So here, another like bad pack. There's a suspicious detonation. So I might be able to splash red instead of white. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Or at least having the 2 detonations to bring in whenever I need to point and click kill something alongside the Gear Drake might be better than the Tolsimir. So I'm just picking that up here. I don't think I'm playing any of the other cards. Behind the Mask has been a huge disappointment.
Yep, agreed. One thing that I've done occasionally in this format is, in best of 3, is switch my splashes in sideboarding.
Yeah.
So if you're in a matchup where Tolsimir is not optimized and you really just need, like you say, more point and click removal.
I don't think there's a matchup where Tolsimir is not good. That doesn't really work. But it's more like if my opponent has things that, like, for instance, I bought it in against the triple Gleaming Gear Drake deck because I just needed to kill the Gear Drakes.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's also a case of the Filth Falcon. So there's these flyers that were not gonna be big enough to not die for 4 damage. So in that matchup, I ended up boarding out the Tolsimir, boarding in the red. But my red splash is a little bit more dubious because I don't have the green-white duel. Or I do have the green-white duel, but not a duel of the other. So it's my splash for white is more compelling at this point.
Yes. Yeah. That makes total sense. If anyone's interested in checking out some of the other videos on the channel, in the Magic Mates Cup final video that I did, the high stakes one, I did exactly that. I had the opportunity to kind of splash whatever I wanted, and I chose to splash white for Buried in the Garden. But there were some matchups where my opponents were heavy on combat tricks, and I needed just something a little bit leaner in instant speed, and so I boarded in my kind of red instant speed removal in those matchups instead. So, yeah. Okay,
right,
so
I get a Crocodile here. Huge, relief. That's exactly what, it's not exactly what my deck needs. Yep. I also would like interaction, but I am also low on morphs, so it's nice to pick up the Crocodile here.
Huge pick.
Yeah.
Hey, this Cryptex can trigger your.
I was thinking about the Cryptex, honestly, as fixing.
Yeah.
But I think the Crocodile is just what I need. If the picks have been reversed, so I could pick the Cryptex last pick, that would have been very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Crocodile is just too good. It was also Cryptic is not super reliable as a piece of fixing. It's better as like a countermeasure thing. Anyways, here we see a weird thing. So you can kind of see like what the other like competition in my pack was, because there was also this. So this is the pack where I picked Tolsimir, and there was also the fourth tunnel shifter, for instance. But
wow, yeah, okay,
and
okay.
And I didn't pick that here. I think there's an argument for Offender at large if I'm gonna be the red splash and not do white. But if I'm gonna do splash Tolsimir, then crowd control Warden ends up playing out really nicely, and I just need the other morph. So I think here, if I just have 4 tipsters and 4 morphs, that's just like not that good. I'd rather have 3 tipsters and 5 morphs. So
agreed. Yeah.
And I'm definitely not taking the Salmon Collector. Like that is, I have enough of that now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, picking up another good morph.
Mm-hmm. And especially since I'm looking to play white, so I can just play this turn 5 or turn 4. Even. So, yeah.
Yeah, and there is a bit of a tipsing point between kind of 3 and 4 tunnel tipsters.
No, I got it. Yeah. And
nice.
Yes, I agree.
Great.
That is.
Cool. We're nearly there, people. We're nearly
there. So there's like this 10th Street Gossip, which is also interesting. Like, if I was like, red green, like basically would have been very nice to go like tipster into that one, but I'm probably gonna not splash red. I just don't have enough fixing for that. So, or at least like I might be splashing the white instead. So I don't know. It's interesting. If I'd taken the repeat offender, maybe I would take the Gossip here. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I'd never taken the Tulsim yet, I'd just taken a land over it, which I'm not sure there was a land in that pack. Like any piece of fixing. But anyways, the Candlestick does kind of work well if I'm trying to be aggressive and I'm trying to enable my evidence examiners and so on. So end up picking the Candlestick here. Like I haven't played with it before, but I've heard that it should be pretty good in these styles of deck.
Interesting. Okay. If you had grabbed the Gossip here, then when you do that transformation into a red splash rather than the white, would you bring in cards like the Gossip in addition to the removal spells?
Probably, but the issue is that I just don't have that many sources, so it's awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, in ideal world, I think I could just be like a teamer deck with 2 Suspicious Detonations, the Gossip and the Gear Drake, and I would have like, the right colors for it, and that would have been fine. But instead I have this like Tolsimir thing where I'm like a blue-green deck, and part of my fixing is just having cards like Candlestick that like, I have the Surveil and I have the clues. I'm gonna like see more cards, and that's how I'm gonna assemble the combo of 2 white sources plus Tolsimir.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So it's kind of like a combo in that sense, right? Like if you view it that way.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Rounding us out.
I take a magnifying glass here as the second chalk outline. It's not really going to be relevant as a cyber card.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I get this third outside alibi, which is whatever. Maybe even this is a good spot to take the Vigilante, honestly. My deck ends up having enough white sources that it could support it. That's an interesting one.
That's kind of interesting, yeah. I did really admire when you sent me the photo of all of your picks. Your third last pick in each pack was Airtight Alibi.
Oh, right, I didn't even notice that. But yeah, that makes
sense. Yeah.
So yeah, I now have 3 of them. I'm not going to use 3. Curious Inquiry, I don't know. It's good if you're like the Gleaming Gear deck, but I'm not. So
yeah. Okay, let's pull up a picture of your final deck, and we'll talk about where we ended up. All right, here's our final build. Looks like the coverage team got Trostani and Tolsimir a little bit mixed up.
Yeah, I think there's like some process that they have that leads to these pictures often being slightly wrong.
That's okay.
It might just be like,
but yeah. Rest of this looks like what you played.
And so yeah, basically like white 2-drops look kind of insane, right? 3 tipsters, 3 evidence examiners. I was very happy with that.
That was my first thought.
But then you look down at my spells, and it's like, ugh. It's kind of awkward, right? And I really think, like, I can see now how the, like, not on my watch doesn't really fit in this.
Yeah.
And that's something like Reasonable Doubt would have been perfect. Also, like, just an assemble the players would have been nice in this deck. I have the Tolsimir, the Glintweaver, the 2 4-drops, and the Panther that doesn't get cast from it, but there's still, like, a lot of things. Like, it's like 6, 10, plus those 3, so it's like 13 cards that gets cast from it, which is kind of a lot, because again, you can morph with it. And I think in my sideboard right now, I have a Bubble Smuggler and a Crime Stopper Sprite, as well as the Reasonable Doubt. Like, these are cards that I considered playing. I even considered when I built this deck to have like just a straight blue-green version that had not on my watch and didn't have not in my watch, and didn't have Tolsimir. And I concluded that in that deck, I would still play 1 planes, so that I could cast my crowd control Voltas more often. But and then I've reasoned that, okay, actually, I don't have that many blue cards. I have the 3 Examiners, the Candlestick, the Inspector, and the Cracker, and then I have 2 Morphs. So it's like, I have 6 blue cards plus 2 Morphs. So I actually don't need that many islands to make this work. I play like 5 island here plus a Hedgemate, and then a Fate Tunnel. So that's like 7 sources, which is fine. Plus the Panther. So I actually can afford to play like 3 planes in this deck, which kind of makes me have enough sources for Tolsimir, right? Like counting the Tunnel and the Panther, which, I mean, you can't count them as both blue and white, but maybe kinda. So like assembling the triple white source for Tolsimir is like not that difficult. And I end up like going with that, and then I also get to play Not on My Watch, is what I'm thinking. But in reality, Not on My Watch is like not actually it's not really a thing I get to play. Like, it's not a thing that leads me into something. I think Reasonable Doubt would have just been a better card anyway. So yeah, like I'm just like harping on like that pick being wrong. So also Jesse pointed out to me that this is not a good Glintweaver deck, because of like all the clue generation. I would rather just like I have enough things to spend my mana on. I'd rather just have a morph. So Bubble Smuggler should just be better than Glintweaver. And it also enables my tipsters better. So yeah, those are things I didn't quite put together. And you can see here, if I add Crimestone Sprite and Bubble Smuggler, like, you can see how the assembly of the players would actually be really good in my deck. That's not where I am, though. I mean, you can't retroactively change things. So, but I think I should have played some of these cards. The Crimestone Sprite would have been like nice at just being something that interacts, quote unquote. And like would have helped me a little bit, and I just like lean a little bit more aggressive. I don't know if I should have played the Tolsimir or not in that case. If I add 3 more blue cards, maybe I can't afford. I don't think I can afford to play this many planes, so maybe I should have left the Tolsimir on the side in that case.
And I mean, my biggest concern here, and I guess my question to you is how concerned are you about your ability to cast Evidence Examiner on turn 2?
Not super concerned, because a lot of times I'll have a tipster anyway, and it's also like not the best card to play on turn 2. Like, it doesn't work turn 2. The reason it's good to cast turn 2 is so you can trade it off. So I mean, it's probably fine if I'm not able to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, there were definitely a few games where I didn't cast it turn 2. Sometimes I had games where I just didn't have blue mana for forever, which is definitely like a downside of doing it this way, right? Like, it's going a bit on the greedy side.
Yeah, and I guess your red splash is less well enabled, but also less demanding, so you're not trying to splash a double piffed card.
Yes, exactly. But I would still need to play like 2 mountains, I think, to make the red splash work. I think I actually ended up playing 3 when I boarded it in, but that was like probably too aggressive. But yeah, like 2 mountains, an escape tunnel, and a Topir Panther is not really like good fixing for 3 cards. Like, I mean, it's okay, I guess, but you'd kind of like to have another source. So the like red splash doesn't really like seem to be a thing I can do here. So it's kind of funny that I'm like, I don't really want to do the red thing, but I will do the double white thing. And I think that's just the power of like having a Lush Portico, and also it justifies having 3 planes more. But yeah, it's awkward. I think I'm also only playing 17 lands. Yeah, I am, because of the Panther and the tipsters. You can definitely have too many lands.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 17 seems right here.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I think I would prefer to play 18 in a lot of decks in this format. So yeah, like this definitely doesn't look as good as I felt during the draft, and the deck ended up going 1-2, which, I mean, I don't think that's like a good average for this type of deck. It does look very strong when it works, but the decks at this table were just very strong, I think.
Okay.
So that definitely does. Like, I lost to Adam's, triple gear direct deck in a match that was really close, but so I think I think I would rather have. So the 2 drafts we looked at right now have been 2 1-2 decks, by some of the best players in the world, me and JD. But I think I would rather have this one than Sean's deck. But I think both of them have like pretty major holes, and I think those holes could have been patched up a little bit better. It's a classic thing of
I think
PT drafts is that not everything is going to come together, and so you have to like learn how to patch your holes in like unconventional ways throughout the draft.
That's it, and I actually find these much more interesting to analyze, right? Because a lot of the time people love to share their 3-0 draft logs.
Yeah, and it's just like, you open the Agros Crows and then like Red Eye was open and you just like, great.
Yeah, exactly. But I find this one where it was not clear what direction you were supposed to be in, both in terms of colors and strategy, in terms of like whether you wanted to be leaning aggressive or leaning control-y. Even once we're looking at the final build, that's not entirely clear, right? There's discussion about what the best way to actually angle the final build is. So having a draft with that many different decisions that you're trying to weigh and having a couple of really critical picks in there, I think that makes for much more interesting content than just I dominated this draft and went 3-0, you know. Yeah. So basically, if you could make it to pod 1 on day 2, but then train wreck, I think that would make some perfect content if you want to keep doing that.
Okay, sure. I can see what I can do. No guarantees.
I can do one half of that if that helps.
Sure. Wait, the train wreck part. You do the train wrecking. I do the part 1.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a delegation of tasks. We're doing it great. So yeah. Anyways, absolutely, this was fun as always to try and delve into. It's like I hadn't actually like went deep on analyzing my draft before this, so it's good for me to see like if I can try and spot where things kind of went wrong. Even though I'm like I definitely have to be in the right colors, right? Given like some of the power level of these cards, right? So it's more about like how do you round it out when like the cards that support it aren't really present. Especially like there was no out cold, for instance, in the entire didn't see a single one, right? And like stuff like that would have been really good for the solo deck.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, beautiful. All I can say is, Simon, thank you so much for doing this with us again. I look forward to this every quarter or so. These are some of my favorite videos to make. I get messages from people all the time asking if we're going to do one about this Pro Tour. I hope that you do as well. They seem very popular with the community as well.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to seeing if I can, maybe I'll actually be the feature drafter of round 1 in like the first part next time. So that would make things a lot easier. Then I can roast myself.
That certainly would.
I guess, is that how it works?
Maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Rich Hagen, put this man in the feature light, please. The feature light, that's a real thing.
That is a real thing.
It's getting very tired. Let's wrap this thing up.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
All right. That will do us. If you would like to hear more from Simon, if it's on this channel, please comment. Let him know that you'd love to have him back. But the best way that you can support Simon and make sure he comes back to have these crazy conversations is head on over to Metafy, where Simon offers individual MTG coaching. I've actually taken advantage of that myself to help prepare for my RCs. He offers help in limited, constructed, having a positive attitude about going 1-2 in draft, all of these things. I can't recommend it enough. Is there anything you wanted to add about how you approach that, Simon?
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't listen. Can we do it over? I was trying to think of a good outro.
Love it. Look, having been in some sessions with Simon myself, he is as good a teacher as you would expect from these videos. So if you want to grab one lesson from him, you will take a huge amount out of just a single 60-minute session, or if you want to make it a longer term thing to really help improve your progress towards the Pro Tour, that will work as well. So please take advantage of that. If you want to follow Simon online, he is on Twitter at Mr. Checklist Card. Did I get that right?
Yep, MR Checklist Card.
Beautiful, cool. If you would like to follow us, please subscribe. That is the number one thing that we're really looking for. We're closing in on that 1,000 mark, and so we would really love to have you. We do draft videos every week. We do extra content like this with Simon. We do draft analysis stuff. We do pre-release guides. We do lots of different draft content over here, and we would love to have your company. And we've got a crazy little community that you'll be able to see down in the comment section that I'm sure will be saying very nice things about me. You can email us at the address that's on screen now. You can find us on Twitter at DropPunksMTG. Everything's separated by underscores. Better place to follow us is me personally. I'm at calm_mirror, and my name is Sam. If you'd like to follow Adrian, he is at WalkerAid. He does not talk very much on the Twitters. All right, Simon, you're taking Adrian's role here. Tell me, when you're at the Pro Tour, what do you call a werewolf on YouTube?
That's a good question. I think that has to be an undercocker croco wolf. Right? Did I get it? Did we get a prize? Is that good?
You're way better at that than Adrian. We're firing Adrian. You've got his job now.
Oh my god, that is the prize? Wow, okay, I don't want it anyway.
I have to tell you, though, it's a like and subscribe. I'm just gonna pause for 1 sec just while Adrian, don't laugh at me. Don't say anything. Adrian always makes fun of me for the fact that I still need a script for my outro that we've done for north of 200 videos now.
I definitely laughed.